musings for sports-mad vampires, factory shift workers...
Never mind hello, Chuck.
And men with prostate trouble. Morning, Andy.
What are you doing?
Make sure you stay awake for the radio show that never sucks. The Nosferatu Mics on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
See the time, by the way.
Hang on a sec. I want to talk about these raccoons.
Louis van Gaal's army! Louis van Gaal's army!
Bees have human face recognition. They can recognise humans and come back and say hello to you again.
Rubbish.
They do. The reason beekeepers wear veils is because they want to disguise themselves from the bee.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. It's time to say a very good morning, and I'm delighted to say, for the first appearance of the week, Mr. Mike Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Well, it would be a good morning if in
what's wrong with
the
you now?
introduction to your show you could perhaps mention the outstanding footballing achievement of the weekend, which was, of course...
What, Leicester coming back from 2-0 down?
No, Everton beating
Manchester
Chelsea.
United beating Liverpool 3-1 in the biggest club game in the world.
Everton beating Chelsea 3-1 to further demolish the reputation
what, you mean the early
of
game?
Jose Mourinho.
Hang on, you mean the early game on Saturday?
Yes, the early game on Saturday. That's the one exactly
that
I mean.
That was a 12:45 kickoff,
yes,
right?
That's right.
So let's see, 12:45, finished about, 2-ish, something like that? 2:30?
Yeah.
It's now, 1 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday morning. I don't think we need to talk about it. It's in ancient history.
Rubbish. It's not diminish the prominence of that game. And by the way...
Really. It was very prominent at the time.
By the way...
But, not now.
I got the predicted score absolutely right.
I don't think you did, actually.
I got the score on the Manchester United-Liverpool game absolutely right.
Well, no, I don't think you did either.
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, we can check it.
Yeah, we'll check it. We'll check it.
We'll get to the Selco predictor.
I said Everton would beat Chelsea by at least 2 goals.
Yeah, but it's ancient history. I don't think we need to talk about that.
I said that Manchester United would beat Liverpool by at least 1 goal.
No, that's not what you said. You gave scores out, right?
It doesn't matter.
You said 2-0 for Everton against Chelsea.
I didn't. I said 3.
It says 2.
I thought
it said 3, but I've checked it since and it was 2-0, you said.
OK, well, it's very close. It was by 2 goals.
I'm very pleased that you got the occasional predictor right. I presume now you might have moved up the table from 399.
I'll tell you what else I object to as well.
399th joint, you're now 398th.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to ignore that ridiculous
It's very warm in here, isn't it?
It's very warm,
I've put a jumper on for the first time.
Fire off?
There is no fire.
Oh, OK.
There's no fire.
All right.
Calm down.
Yeah.
But I thought it's so cold. It's so cold. It's so cold now that I thought I had to wear a jumper.
What I object to...
Are you still banging on about Everton?
Hang on, listen, I'll tell you what I object to. Why is it that everybody's talking about the failure of Chelsea instead of the magnificent victory and achievement of Everton?
Chelsea are useless, right? Chelsea, at the moment, are just circling above the relegation zone, right? It's very good that Everton beat them, but everybody's beaten them at the moment, so I don't think it's much of an achievement, personally.
What I found fascinating was watching Match of the Day on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Alan Shearer, of course, who is the all-time record goal scorer in the Premier League, was asked what's wrong with Chelsea. He said everything.
Yeah.
He literally said
I think he's absolutely right.
The defence is all over the place, the midfield doesn't know what it's doing and seems to be inert and inoperative, and they have no attacking strength because old Costa Diego, what's his name?
Diego Costa.
Diego Costa is...
Costa.
Yeah, Costa.
Diego Costa
looks as though he doesn't really want to be there, which is a mystery.
Jose Mourinho looks like he doesn't want to be there either.
Well,
I mean, you saw the game live. I saw Match of the Day because I was busy during that time doing something else with my kids.
Yeah, getting bladdered,
no, actually, I was taking them shopping to buy them shin pads.
Oh, yeah, shin pads. Why?
Why? Well, why do you think I bought them shin pads?
Well, are they taking up football?
Well, they've been playing football for a while.
So why have they not had shin pads in the past to protect their little legs?
Oliver has had shin pads in the past, but he's now lost them.
He's lost them.
Knows where they are.
How do you lose shin pads?
I don't know. The little one's taking it up sort of properly, and he's in a bigger class at school now.
Right,
so,
okay.
So basically, I had to go and get them some.
And
shin
what sort
pads.
of shin pads you buy them?
I bought them shin pads. I went to a popular sports outlet,
right?
Not a million miles away from many towns in this country. I don't want to give the name away. And they're measured by height, believe it or not.
Are they?
If you're measured, you can either be extra small, small, medium, large.
Are they padded shin pads?
They are,
or are they like? Say, I had a mate who was a professional footballer. He joined Arsenal as an apprentice.
Oh, yeah.
And they gave him these shin pads I'd never seen before. They were, in fact, wafer-thin plastic in a wrap, which you slid inside your sock. But they weren't like the traditional padded shin pads.
No, they're not as padded as the ones that say you and I would have had.
No, that's right,
They are hard plastic, and they have got sort of a bit of a sponge behind them.
Yeah.
But they're not particularly thick in the way that you would... Also bought a couple of footballs, because they had 2 for £6.
That's not bad.
Although one of them wanted to buy a more expensive ball, which was about 13 quid. I said, why don't you
it.
just get 2 for £6?
Particularly if you're playing on a road because it scratches the ball. If you're playing on a field, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I had to buy a pair of trainers from one of them as well. So I was out shopping.
I bought a new pair of trainers.
Did you?
Yeah, in the Nike shop.
Why did you buy a pair of trainers? You got loads of trainers.
I know. I was walking past and I saw them and I thought that's good. But guess what? I wore them the next day and they have literally caused a huge wound on the back of my foot.
Wound?
Yes.
Well, like a blister?
Well, worse. It's dug into my foot. And
really?
Yeah, because I so brave ignoring these things, I just kept on walking. And I walked over to a place called Leon Solent and suddenly discovered that I had a huge gouging wound in the back of my foot.
Was it bleeding?
It was bleeding profusely.
Was it?
Yeah, and I've had it treated since then. And
treated?
Treated, yeah.
By a chiropodist?
No, by me, with a bit of iodine, and I put a load of plasters on it, but it's still sore. But I just grit my teeth and get on with it. That's been the story of my life, actually.
I know, you're a very brave man.
Yeah, I agree.
People have said that a lot.
I agree.
Now, so anyway, what I was going to say about Jose Mourinho was that after the game, when he was kind of laughing, I mean, I suppose if you're Jose Mourinho at this point, you must laugh because you can't
I
go
didn't see him laughing.
Yeah, he was laughing in the Match of the Day interview, saying that, when they tried to get the tactical computer up and running, the computer had broken down.
Yes.
I'm not surprised you don't remember that interview because it was quite late on by that stage.
Well,
and
no.
You'd been celebrating the game all day.
No, I hadn't. I saw the immediate interviews after the game. That's the point. And the one that...
well, this was the Match of the Day interview.
Yes, okay. I'm saying I was watching the game live.
Yeah,
you
no,
weren't, and I saw them afterwards.
I've explained
but
why.
the one that seems
shopping.
to upset everybody, he said, are you feeling down about it? Are you feeling under pressure? He said, no. He said refugees are under pressure. And then the whole world explodes on Twitter and say, what a tasteless comment. Well, actually, I thought he was quite right. He was saying, hang on, I earn about 10 million quid a year and I've got an £8 million house in London and I'm fated wherever I go. Yeah. And I've got, a big comfortable bed to sleep in 1 or 2 or 3 different properties. Refugees who are fighting for their lives. Why was he being insensitive?
Well, there are 2 reasons for that. One, he wasn't being insensitive.
Yeah.
People jump on anything that they can see possibly on Twitter, but also there was a lot of people out there who don't like Jose Mourinho, so they are, in fact, relishing the fact that he's now struggling. In fact, he said that. He said, I know there'll be a lot of people out there who are enjoying me being in this position where I've never been before.
Yes, that's right.
But it seems as though, being the great master of football that he's meant to be, how could he go from being, the team that was the champions by such a big distance last year to now there's more or less the same team who can't seem to play together?
I don't know.
John Terry, I think, is the key.
Well, I'm not sure about that. If you listen to some of the experts, they think that Fabregas is the key and that he's gone from being, not a bad player last season to a very poor player this season. And therefore, there's no cohesion in the middle. Nobody knows what Fabregas is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, but all the mistakes have been made at the back. They're 10 goals already.
Well, yeah, but what they're saying is part of that reason for that happening is because...
Are you feeling all right?
Yes, because the midfield are not shielding the defence.
Well, that may be true.
And Fabregas should be part of that shield operation.
That may be true.
Which he is not being.
But was it not the case last year that people said John Terry, nobody really expects him after the experience he'd had with Rafa Benitez where he got dropped a few times, he was determined to prove that he could still play for Chelsea, and he had a couple of great seasons. People said, how much longer could he go on? And it seems like this might be one season too long because every single goal that was scored, he was kind of in no man's land.
Well, he was a bit, but I don't...
He was just looking at the ball.
But apparently Ivanovic is a player who's gone from being one of the best to one of the worst overnight.
But they all seem to
have done
they all
have. Yeah, you're right.
It seems extraordinary. It's an extraordinary state of affairs. So
Mind you, that was a goal from Matic, wasn't it? Whoosh,
that was some goal,
35 yards.
I don't want to burst your bubble. There's still lots of stories about Mourinho and Chelsea on the back pages. Apparently, banter has now been banned at Chelsea because banter. No, he's not a man. It's a pastime.
Yeah,
that's all been banned. We heard about Mourinho's row with Martinez yesterday.
Well, you didn't hear about it. That was a really pretty disgraceful incident.
Well,
when the visiting manager uses profanities.
Oh, really?
To say,
you don't think football managers swear?
To say to the home manager, get out of the interview room. It's I should be in there.
I would have said pretty disgraceful for Martinez to change what is the form, which is to allow the away manager to go first. So
he wasn't there. He wasn't there. He was doing another one. You have to do about 4 interviews after the game.
We know that Martinez doesn't like him. Martinez was stitching him up.
We have to do about they have to do about 4 interviews after the game, and depending on what rotation you do. And Martinez was asked to come in and say, "Look, we're free now, Roberto. Can you come in and do it?"
I think you're being slightly disingenuous. You know very
well. You
know very well that Martinez does not like Mourinho. And Mourinho doesn't like him.
Well, I'm not surprised the way that Chelsea have tried to purloin John Stones and didn't get their way.
Well, I mean, David Moyes tried to purloin what's his face, didn't he? Leighton Baines. They don't dislike him.
Well, no, the
that
relationship has
well.
changed. Relationship has changed.
Has it?
Yes, changed, yeah. But no, what I was going to say was, and the idea that Mourinho said, oh, well, the players were sitting on the bus outside, the engine was running. Since when did Jose Mourinho ever consider that the players would dictate the way he behaves after a game? Never.
Well,
I've heard of those
he didn't
players.
want to hang around.
I've heard of those players sitting on that bus for half an hour with the engine running while Jose's been sitting in the other manager's office having a glass of, very expensive wine, and they can wait as long as they are told to wait by the boss until he's ready to get on the bus and go home. I mean, Christ almighty, it's not like there were...
Pardon?
Crikey almighty! It's not as if they were dashing off to the airport to get an EasyJet flight home. It's not as if they were heading for the M6.
I don't know where they were going.
They were heading to the airport to get a private plane back to London.
Right, okay.
So the private plane goes when everybody gets on it. So what's the problem?
Well, after you've lost the game, you want to get out.
What is the problem?
That's basically the thing. Anyway, have you seen the time?
I've seen the time, but I'm not too worried about the time, because I'm going to talk to you about other things which are big issues in the world of sport.
Yeah, good. I don't want to talk about Everton anymore. This is Talk Sport.
You're a nut. You're crazy in the coconut. What does that mean, that voice?
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. It's winners and losers night tonight. Of course, there's loads of stuff on that front to be talking about. We've got live Champions League football to look ahead to as well. We're going to talk to Shaka Hislop tonight too. We've got loads and loads of tweets coming in already. Martin has tweeted at two Mikes. He says, Mike, I hope you're going to tell us how much Mourinho, so the best manager in the world, like you have said last year. Well, I don't think Mourinho's a bad manager. I don't think he's suddenly become a bad manager. That's why it's so puzzling as to why he doesn't appear to be able to somehow galvanise Chelsea into playing the way they played last year.
No, I agree.
I don't think he's suddenly become like Mourinho's no longer in... interestingly enough, over the weekend, there was a piece in Piers Morgan's column
I saw that.
in Event magazine. I don't know. Did you see the bit about George Osborne, by the way?
Yes, I did, yes.
Apparently George Osborne came up to him at the GQ Awards and a bit like yourself.
Yeah, that's why he didn't go to the party.
About why he didn't get an invite to Piers Morgan's party.
That's right. But then again, you see, I now feel better because if the Chancellor of the Exchequer is not deemed...
Just shows you what an exclusive party it was.
No, it doesn't. No, if the Chancellor of the Exchequer is not deemed important enough to be invited to the 50th birthday party, then as far as I'm concerned, it must have been full of very shady people. And I'm rather glad that I wasn't now included in that list.
He did use a three-letter acronym to suggest that he wasn't wanted there. I'm not going to repeat that because he's got an F in the middle of it. But that's why George Osborne wasn't invited.
Well, yes, but also, of course, you have to remember that Piers was for many, many years the editor of the Daily Mirror, which, of course, has a political stance directly opposed to conservatism.
Well, yeah,
so he would have seen...
But he was also editor of News of the World, and it doesn't matter, does it?
Oh, yeah, but he pledged his life in his troth to the Mirror, didn't he? He tried to get Gordon Brown re-elected as Prime Minister and all sorts of things. I mean, he really went at it in a way which really surprised me, because Piers, of course, is has a very middle class background. But anyway, I'm not talking about Piers more. We're talking about the situation at Chelsea.
Well, yeah, but what I was going to say was he ran into Jose Mourinho at this at the GQ Awards, and he said to him, when are you going to come and... I mean, this was before, presumably, Chelsea...
Managed my club.
Fell at the third hurdle at the weekend and lost to Everton. And he said, when are you going to come to my club? And what Jose said was, I'm not going to be manager of Chelsea forever, and when I leave Chelsea, I will still stay living in London.
Oh, that's right, I'm not leaving London, he said.
He left that as a sort of tantalising... tantalising sort of thing to hang in the air.
Look at the latest stuff coming out of Chelsea here. Chelsea has become a banter-free zone as Jose Mourinho's troops battle against their worst start in 30 years. Tomorrow's Champions League opponents, Maccabi Tel Aviv, are threatening to inflict even more misery. Chelsea Insider said, there are unhappy players around the place. There are no jokes or banter.
Well, when you've had the worst start... I think
we want banter.
Have they now had the worst start of any Premier League champions apart from Blackburn, or have they now actually got worse than Blackburn?
No, apart from Blackburn.
Aside from Blackburn, yeah. And the worst start that Jose Mourinho has ever had in any team that he has managed in any league in Europe.
That's right. By the way...
So I'm not surprised they're not telling any jokes.
Talking about banter, did you see Louis van Gaal over the weekend? I mean, he went completely off his rocker. Didn't you see when he was asked about his relationship with the fans?
Yeah.
He says, my relationship with the fans? I see them outside and they chant, Louis van Gaal's army. Louis van Gaal's army.
There's a bit of YouTube footage of him actually singing along with them. But he also said, Louis van Gaal actually was great this weekend. I think it was very funny when he said, we have a lot of meetings, because of all that stuff about Rooney and a couple of other players going to see him and having a meeting with him about the morale of the players.
They have a meeting. They come to the dressing room. I go to the dressing room because your captains, Rooney and Michael Carrick, they say there's unhappiness. I go to the dressing room.
Wasn't that, by the way, one of the worst worst starts to a Manchester United-Liverpool game. The first half, I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, dreadful.
It was absolutely awful.
I nearly fell asleep, and I wasn't going to watch the second half, and then I thought, well, I will. And then, of course, it was quite worth it.
It did get a bit better.
To see the young boy,
Martial goal.
Yeah.
Nathaniel?
What's his name?
Anthony Martial.
Yeah, Anthony Martial, that's right, yeah.
Do you want to have a listen to Louis van Gaal?
Yes, please, yes. Yeah, a bit of that.
Louis van Gaal's army! Louis van Gaal's army!
See, I told you, that's exactly what I just told you.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing.
Yeah. A man with something to look forward to, I guess, now, because he's looking down on Jose Mourinho. I mean, they're not perhaps as good as everyone thought they might be. They're not even maybe as good. I mean, he's on the back page this morning. Yeah, they were second for a while. He's on the back page saying he doesn't think they're good enough to play in Europe.
Who?
Van Gaal.
He doesn't think United are good enough.
Yeah, he says, I don't know if we are good enough on the back page of the Mirror.
Oh, yeah, but he didn't.
Van Gaal admits his players have a lot to prove in Europe.
Yeah, but actually, I think that's been taken out of context, actually. I'm not knocking my fellow tabloid journalist, but when I saw him say that, I think he sort of said, well, it'll be a great test for us all and we'll find out. Whereas this headline, I don't know if we're good enough, makes it look like he's got self-doubt. I don't think he was expressing self-doubt. I think he was expressing, we'll find a level when we play in Europe, don't worry. Because he made the point that we had to qualify through a qualifying game, now we're into the real competition. He was saying it that way, really.
Yeah. Now, how about this from Carol, who's a Manchester City fan, big Manchester City fan. Don't Manchester City exist for Talk Sport? We too are playing in the Champions League tonight, if you didn't know. Well, don't worry, Carol, it's a very long show. We will get around to Manchester City. But,
no, this is...
We are not against any football team here at Talk Sport. I don't know why people make those accusations.
No, we're not. And also, the City-Juventus one is very intriguing because if City have had an Achilles heel over the last few years, it has been European competition, and yet tonight they're presented with an opportunity to really give a battering to last year's finalists because Juventus have had their worst start in 30 years.
They've had a terrible time, haven't they?
Terrible start.
1 point out of 9 or something.
That's right, and not firing and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So...
here's one from Roy, who says, Costa Diego, bladderation and huge wounds on his foot. What can we say just 4 minutes in? I think it's still about you.
Yeah, he is,
huge wounds on your foot.
Yeah. They are huge wounds in my foot, but I just grit my teeth and get on with it. That's what you have to do.
Kenny says, update on the 2 Mikes Predictor League. Week 5, Mike Parry 364th.
Oh, that's rubbish.
With a total of 65 points. MG 179th with a total of plus 175.
I think this is rubbish.
You've still got a bit of catching up to do.
I think this is rubbish. I don't think it's fantastic.
And then Bill says, "Crikey Almighty, Porky! New phrase for the Porky Thesaurus: Costa Coffee Diego del Fuego."
Yes, or whatever. Now people are being a bit ridiculous about all this. So there are issues we've got to talk about in football, right?
Yeah,
and they are.
Have you finished talking about Everton already?
Well, I'm going to keep talking...
I can't believe you finished talking about Everton.
No. I haven't finished talking about Everton, providing we give Everton the respect they deserve for that game. Naismith could have gone to Norwich for £8 million and decided not to go.
Well, why is he playing for Scotland?
Well, actually, he didn't decide not to go.
Why didn't he start if he's that good?
Roberto Martinez decided not to sell him.
Yeah, but why did he not put him on in the beginning?
Well, do you know, it's a bit of a mystery, and it's interesting what Jace was saying in the last programme, that when Besic went off, Besic being a defensive midfielder, replaced him with a forward.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, what my view would be now is if I'm the manager there, I say, how do you reward a boy who got a hat-trick against Chelsea?
Yeah.
You have to start him in the next game.
Absolutely.
And if you start him in the next game, but you still want to pack your midfield because you're away at Swansea, you're a decent team, do you drop Lukaku?
I would, yeah.
I would as well.
Yeah.
I would. I'd say, look, this is a club where there is merit and,
Why should
and
Lukaku
reward.
Think that he's absolutely copper-bottomed and he's always going to start?
J'agree.
Yeah. That's why I always say about Wayne Rooney in England, maybe they should think that not necessarily every game has to start with Wayne Rooney playing it.
Well, I kind of j'agree, but Barkley must start every game now because Barkley's proved his mettle in his
career.
Of course he has.
I didn't think he played that well against Chelsea, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, he was one of the
Everton
players that didn't do that well.
Who?
Barkley.
Against who?
Against Chelsea.
He was man of the match in 3 papers I read on Sunday morning.
Not in my estimation.
He was, apart from the Naismith hat-trick, obviously.
But he wasn't Naismith man of the match?
He was terrific. Yeah, Naismith was man of the match. Barkley was midfielder of the match. Yeah, he was. I don't know what you're laughing at.
Midfielder of the match. How about this from Show Me the Money? Ask Porky if he's bought Everton's yearly We Beat One of the Big Boys DVD in the shops Monday, reduced for quick sale by Friday. That seems a bit harsh.
I'm not going to react to that because it's a nonsensical allegation about Everton's role in the pantheon of great teams in this country.
And now, here's one who's a Liverpool fan. He calls himself Irish One. He says, he comes across as mad and stupid, but he is one very smart man. Who do you think he'd be talking about?
Jose Mourinho.
No, I think he's talking about you.
Nah, it'd be ridiculous. I don't come across as stupid. I come across as a man who reads between the lines, I think is the best way to put it.
No, okay.
Reads between the lines.
Now, we're going to get... I don't know whether you want to read between the lines about what's going on up at Newcastle, because we're going to talk to Shaka Hislop in a moment about they're now bottom of the league.
They're
already.
Steve
McLaren, which I know is going to give you an opportunity to do a Steve McLaren voice, has been... I mean, if you
How'd
look,
you say in English?
If you look, for example, at the places that have got new manager, Claudio Ranieri at Leicester, right, who you said would be rubbish, right, and I said would be great, has been great.
No, you didn't say it'd be great.
I did so.
Rubbish.
I was one of the few people who said Ranieri was a great choice. Everybody thought it was a bad idea. McLaren has been completely useless.
Well, do you know
What's he doing?
Do you know what I found absolutely remarkable? That's the fifth game, right?
Right.
Well played. And all Steve McLaren talking about after the game tonight at West Ham.
So everybody's banned swearing.
He's banned swearing, yeah. But you know, he saw that tonight. He said, well, you know, that was a real...
it's Graham Kelly you're doing.
No, it was not. No. What did he say? It was the expression he used. He said it was a real cold shower. It was a real cold shower. Oh, no, it was a real eye-opener, that one. Real eye-opener. Well, hang on, you've had 5 games, Steve, to work out, you know, how hopeless your team is.
Yeah.
And then, we learned a lesson.
1-0.
We learned a lesson.
Drawn 2, lost 3.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Goals 4, 2. Goals against 7.
We learned a lesson tonight. A real eye-opener. Learned a lesson, real eye-opener. Well, I mean, you know, haven't your eyes been opened till the 5th game, Steve? You need to really get a grip, man.
It's almost an 8th of the season already open, you know.
That's right, yeah. No,
it's incredible. Anyway, we're going to talk to Shaka Hislop about that coming up next. We are the two Mikes. This is Talk Sport.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talk Sport.
Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Athletico Radio.
Talk Sport.
Bug on the Tyne is all mine, all mine. Bug on the Tyne is all mine. Bug on the Tyne is all mine, all mine. Bug on the Tyne is all mine.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. There will, of course, be winners and losers coming up in a little while as well. We'll have a recap of what's going on with the Predictor League. Of course, lots of great football to talk about. But let's talk now to Shaka Hislop about the last remaining Premier League game of the weekend last night. West Ham 2, Newcastle 0. Shaka, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed. Both of these teams are former teams of yours. I don't know which one you support when they play each other, but Newcastle looking pretty shabby at the moment, aren't they?
They are. I mean, they don't look like they're going to score in a month of Sundays.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, not for lack of trying. They had opportunities. The stats would suggest as much. 14 shots on goal, I think 4 on target. But then when you look at these shots and then when you look at the quality of even those that they got on target, Randolph not tested really, in all honesty. And that's a concern because now you're at the bottom of the table. You're lacking confidence, surely. All right, you had a few players missing, but you still don't know what you're going to get out of Mitrovic over the course of this season. Pape Cissé looks, it's hard to describe or explain his fall from grace over the last couple of seasons. And a team that has spent as much as they have as high a wage bill as they do, you can't help but wonder where the problems really come from.
Yeah, when you say where the problems really come from, Shaka, looking at it as an ex-professional footballer, isn't it pretty obvious with the greatest of respect? They just simply aren't playing as a team, are they? They don't seem to know each other very well.
They aren't. And in all honesty, the players who cross the line are the ones who are there to be scrutinised and ultimately end up taking the blame. But if you look deeper at it, Mike, I mean, Alan Pardew was under pressure for the final 9 months of his time at St James's Park. Managers before him have come and failed. And when you look at exactly how good Pardew is doing it as well now, I firmly believe that the problems are far deeper rooted than that. It's not just about the players. It's not just about the manager. I've been fairly critical of Mike Ashley for quite some time now. I'm a believer in, football is a business. And as much as you're talking about it's players who cross the line that are there to be judged and the ones who ultimately have to bear the brunt of the blame, when the leadership isn't great, and I mean boardroom leadership. Yeah. When there are questions about that, I think inevitably there's a knock-on effect further down the line, which translates to poor performances on the pitch. I can't help but feel that is where the whole
I kind of agree with you, Shaka. I think eventually that a boardroom that's sort of not in control, that feeling trickles down right to the dressing room eventually. But I was disappointed with Steve McLaren after the game tonight, continually using the phrase, it was a wake-up call. Tonight's game...
No, you didn't say it was a wake-up call.
What did you say?
Well, you said before it was something else, didn't you?
Well, no, it's a wake-up call.
He said it was a wake-up call. Yeah,
I think he referred to it as a cold shower and then a wake-up call. Now, the point is, if you get 5 games...
you said it was an eye-opener.
An eye-opener as well. If you get 5
he said it was a wake-up call.
If you get 5 games into the season, Shaka, and you're still receiving wake-up calls, you haven't been listening to the alarm clock, have you?
Yeah, no question. And you know, I kind of find, not just on Steve McLaren, but a lot of managers now have gone into this mode of confusing statements after games. And all right, I understand you're trying to protect the dressing room, but you know, surely, you know, you're not taking everybody for idiots here. I mean, you're bottom of the table. You spent more money in the Premier League than anybody bar 2 clubs, and now you're realizing that it's only when you hit rock bottom it's a wake-up call. That for me, you know. I'm sorry, I'm with you, Mike. It doesn't wash, and there are bigger problems.
Mm-hmm.
There are bigger problems, and I think by kind of sugarcoating it or not being a little bit more blunt in the criticisms and even self-criticism.
But that's a bit like the world. It's a bit like the world we all live in now, though, isn't it? There's this kind of management speak that people kind of try and feed you. But did you just say they spent more money than anybody else? I mean, isn't one of the problems for the fans that they don't spend any money? That actually every time they sell a player for a reasonable profit, the money doesn't go back into the game, and Mike Ashley is quite happy for that to continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, there needs to be a plan in place as to what money is being spent, where, and how. You know, or Mike Ashley can certainly defend his position by the money spent. But like I said, I'm still going to criticize. I'm still going to criticize him and the role I think he's playing in the club's downfall. Right. But there has to be some kind of a plan about the way things are doing. And right now, and albeit I'm looking in from the outside here, it just feels like this club is making it up as it goes along. You're not quite sure if you're confident in the manager or not, and so you let one go, yet that manager goes elsewhere with far less resources and does a whole lot better than he's doing at your club. Okay. You're not quite sure what players you want or how you're going to build this team to play, so you buy players and spend a lot of money in doing it without really... For square pegs when you've got round holes, you know, and you can't just justify that by saying, well, look at the money I spent. I just feel that this club lacks leadership from top to bottom, and it's showing itself.
And you might say, looking at West Ham, that in some ways, whatever their problems have been in the past, that's a very different, almost the opposite end of the spectrum, isn't it? Because their 2 chairmen, Gold and Sullivan, seem to know what they want. They seem to know what they're doing. They've got a new manager in. They got rid of Sam Allardyce, and they're sitting up there. I know it's early doors yet, but I mean they're sitting up there in like 5th place.
Yeah, I mean, I feel there are a lot of similarities between West Ham and Newcastle United as football clubs. The fans know what they want, and they're very adamant in how they want to see the game played. You know, West Ham go to great extents to talk about the Ron Greenwood style of football. I have said in the past, and I'll continue saying it, West Ham fans are happy if the team stays in the Premier League and plays football in the Ron Greenwood style that they're used to. They won't accept. I don't believe that West Ham fans will accept long ball, route one football, you know, even if it meant, you know, a position 3 or 4 places higher up in the table. They won't accept it. So you get a manager in a Slaven village who knows this club, who knows their fans, who knows the way they want the game played, and respects it. And now, okay, you start the season brilliantly, and then you have a couple of disappointing results. And I mean, again, I guess the nature of the media, which I am a part of, you start to speculate about Slaven Village and what does this mean because they've lost a couple of games that you should have won. And no, knowing West Ham, knowing the fans, knowing the club, that's not what they're about. They believe in this man. They believe that he's going to bring the kind of football that he wants to see. They believe that he's going to help young players coming through the academy, get them into the first team, give them their opportunities. And he's done that. And they're winning games. And you continue to do that, and Slaven Village is on the right path for West Ham.
Mm-hmm. And they could have a decent season. Do you think, in the final analysis, that Newcastle are in real danger this year, finally, of going down?
I don't want to say, I can't see Newcastle going now. I just feel, despite them popping up the table right now, I just still feel that there are worse teams in the league. Saying that, if you ask me that very question, you ask me who those worst teams were 3 weeks ago, probably top of that list would have been Leicester City. But, now they're just about top of the table themselves. So, Mike, all I can say is stranger things have happened in football. The longer this goes on, the more confidence will drain in the players, and the more trouble they'll find themselves. And, you look at a club like Sunderland, who've been there, you feel that they've had far too many lucky escapes themselves, and you wonder if this is their opportunity. But at least they know what that pressure is like. I'm not sure that this group of players knows what it takes to get out of a dogfight when it really gets intense. Second half of this season.
It's going to be tough for him, I think. Shaka, as ever, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. Shaka Hislop there, ex-West Ham and Newcastle. Much happier with West Ham's progress than Newcastle.
Well, West Ham, for instance, right, my perception of West Ham is they had a disastrous start to the season. They lost 2 home games, okay? But they
beat Arsenal, though, didn't they, in the first game of the season?
Yeah. What I'm saying is they've won 2 away games. And I thought, what a disastrous start to the season. Now, I look at the league table to find that West Ham today have leapfrogged over Everton, who've had quite a good start to the season, if you see what I mean.
Well, they're fifth, aren't they?
Eh?
West Ham are now
fifth.
Yes,
9 points out of 15. That's a very good return.
Yeah.
But they just need to... just imagine the West Ham fans now thinking, crikey, if we'd have just drawn those 2 home games that we lost, we'd have 11 points now and they'd be second. You know?
I know.
But that's the way football works. Yeah.
Extraordinary state of affairs. We've got lots to do, loads more to talk about.
We've got lots to do, so I'd better get on with it.
Yeah, we better get on with it.
Stop you talking a load of drivel.
Yeah, well, just look at the time. Look into the light for a moment.
Don't worry about the time, man. I hope
you've got your winners and losers with you this week,
I have, yeah. After I splatterated you last week in winners and losers,
actually.
Splatterated you, I did.
You had the favourites, which is generally speaking what wins it. We'll find out whether that's the case tonight.
Oh, I see. You're going to switch me on to...
No, we switch it every week.
Oh, do
That's what we do.
Those
are the rules.
I've got some incisive nominees for tonight.
Have you?
Oh, yes.
Well, just make sure you got them with you.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Yeah.
Loads more coming up. Talk Sport, we are the 2 mics. We've got loads to do. We can take some calls as well. 08717 22 3344. That's Can, that song. That's the Can.
I like that, yeah, because I was going to talk to you about... you mentioned it earlier when you were warming up for this show, when you were talking to Jace and Andy earlier.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Birmingham is the canned food capital of the world.
And I thought it was interesting because this story appeared over the weekend, and only last week on the show you were talking about how, these new studies have shown actually, canned vegetables are actually better for you than fresh vegetables.
Yeah, they are.
Which I still don't believe.
The antioxidants in canned vegetables are sealed into... Antioxidants are sealed into a tin, and they evaporate on fresh vegetables and fresh fruit. So tinned food is better for you. Now, the reason Birmingham is the capital is that each day in Birmingham, 640,000 tins of food are consumed, okay?
Each day?
Each day.
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, hang on. In Greater Manchester, each day, 1,420,000 cans of food are consumed, okay?
Really?
Oh, yes. And in London...
What's it like in Gosport?
In London...
Depends on whether you're there or not.
In London, 3,500,000, 3.5 million tins of food.
per capita, right?
Well, this is what I'm about to say to you.
Yeah.
But in Birmingham, that means per 100 people, 58 people a day eat a tin of canned food.
So 58% of the population of Birmingham basically eat a tin of canned food every day?
No, 58 per 100.
Well, that's 58%.
That's 58%. That's right.
That's what I just
58% of people in Birmingham, eat a tin of food. Well, I don't know. What are you laughing at? You're trying
I just said 58%. You went, no.
Yes.
So you said there's 58 out of 100.
Yes, that's right. Well, you're trying to express it in stupid
Well, no, I'm trying to make it
terminology.
Easier. No, because you keep coming out with all these ridiculous amounts of numbers, mountains of numbers. People glaze over.
Just listen. If you just listen.
If you say 58%, people know what you mean.
Now, because of the comparative populations, right?
Yeah, right.
In Greater Manchester, that works out to 56%, okay?
All right, so not far behind.
In Glasgow, 57, but Birmingham's at the top, 58. London's only 41.
Yeah.
I think that's because there's so many takeaway shops in London. People go around eating burgers and stuff,
there's takeaway shops all over the place.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of them in London.
You're saying there's none in Birmingham, in Glasgow, and Manchester?
Yeah, of course there are. Actually, it's interesting because, of course, we've got a show in Birmingham on Friday the 13th.
We certainly have. Friday the 13th of November.
Friday the 13th of November. Yeah. So stock up with your tins, folks, because we're on our way.
Yeah, please don't bring any tins to throw at Mr. Parry.
No, and isn't it amazing that the tin capital of this country is Birmingham, followed by the second tin capital is Glasgow, and our next two shows are in Birmingham and Glasgow.
Yeah. And to be honest, and we've done Greater Manchester, which is third.
Greater Manchester
and then
third.
The one we did after that was Newcastle, which is fourth.
That's right.
There's obviously some kind of two mics zeitgeist thing going on here.
Absolutely. Because the three sounds after that, Cardiff, Bristol and Leeds, we've never done.
Did you eat anything from a can this weekend?
What did I eat from a can? Yeah, mushy peas yesterday.
Mushy peas with
a like a Sunday roast type thing,
so you had a big family Sunday roast?
Yes,
scenario?
that sort of thing. Yeah.
So the mushy peas were out of a can?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, and mixed with sweet corn out of a can.
Okay.
But I did those.
You made those, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Is that your contribution?
Yes, it was, yes.
Well, you opened a can?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I opened two cans,
nice
put them all in a big pan, and stirred it while it heated.
Right.
And
what about your sister? What did she do? She made everything else?
Yes, everything else, yeah. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I actually had a can of beans this weekend.
Oh, did you?
Because I made a fantastic shepherd's pie yesterday.
Yes.
And I just fancied cooking one. And the only thing for me that goes with shepherd's pie is basically canned
Is that right?
beans, yeah.
Is that right? I've never had baked beans with shepherd's pie. With shepherd's pie, I like mushy peas again.
Do you?
I like something green.
Well, I put peas in it, you see, so there's peas in the shepherd's pie.
I see. I'll tell you what I had over the weekend as well.
Go on.
I had a big bowl of spinach with gravy. It was fantastic.
Spinach and gravy?
I love it, yeah. I love it, honestly.
What kind of spinach?
Well, spinach that you get in a bag in Morrison's, and then
what do you do with it?
Well, you put it in a pan and you boil it for 5 minutes. I don't know what you're laughing at. You can't do anything else with spinach. You boil it for 5 minutes and it's great.
You could do any number of things with spinach.
Rubbish.
You can make a sarg aloo, for example.
Anyway, listen, let me tell you about these cans.
What do you mean, anyway, listen? You just didn't even listen to any of that, did you?
Well, we were supposed to be talking about cans before we got off the subject.
Well, you could get canned sarg aloo, probably, if you go
Londoners
to the right shop.
eat fewer cans of food than anybody else in this country.
That.
No, I was just about to tell you.
Only 41%.
Yeah, but only 2.9 tins each a week. But because it's home to 86 million people, the total consumed was 3.5 million daily. And do you know what that weighs? To bring all that food into London each day, 1,453 tonnes alone.
You see, now there's a good point, you see, because if people stopped eating food in cans, that would do away with an awful lot of freight, it would do away with an awful lot of goods.
Well, you'd still have to bring the food into towns.
No, but it wouldn't be as heavy, would it?
Yes, it would.
So it wouldn't actually wreck the roads as much as it
No, don't be
does.
ridiculous. What sort of containers would you put it in? Boxes, I suppose.
What do you mean?
Well, you can't just, say, oh, here we got a load of peas and shovel them, like two Irish navvies shoveling peas onto the back of a lorry. Sorry, not I've got anything against Irish navvies, by the way. There could be English navvies, could be Scottish navvies. But if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah. You understand?
So, how about grow them here?
Please do not take offence. It was just an expression that my parents used to use.
What? Yeah, almost any expression that your parents used to use is almost certain to cause offence.
Well, exactly. These
that
days
goes
it would.
to my parents
so
as
I
well.
apologise.
Yeah, don't worry. How about growing them here? There's plenty of places where you can grow peas.
Well,
you can grow corn.
It's cheaper to import all this stuff now.
Yeah, I know it's cheaper, but it's not, necessarily economically viable.
If somebody in an impoverished Eastern European country is picking peas at sort of 50p an hour, that beats growing them here and paying somebody £6 an hour to pick them. See what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, there are pluses.
That's economic
but
plan.
What I'm saying is there are pluses and minuses. For example, I don't know what the current state of Calais and the sort of the Eurotunnel goods vehicles are, but lots of food was going to waste because people were having to bring all this stuff in, and it was going to go to waste. Wouldn't it be better to just grow it here?
Yes, well,
I mean,
maybe.
far be it from me to be one of these kind of alternative, ergonomic type people, but I mean, it seems to me that if you're carrying loads and loads of food in tins across borders, in lorries which are wrecking roads because they're so heavy, laden down with tins, maybe do away with it.
Well, you've got to put them in something. Now, did you know there is a canned food UK organisation?
That doesn't surprise me.
Jason Hegarty, chairman of Canned Food UK, said it is promising to see that 49% of Brits are choosing to include canned produce as part of their main meals.
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he?
As canned food has a long shelf life, it can be kept in the kitchen cupboards and still retain its nutritional value.
Yeah. Is there some kind of massive campaign going on by these canned food people? Because suddenly last week we have the story about how good it is for you. Now this week we suddenly have the story about how much of it is being eaten. I smell a rat. There's some kind of PR campaign going on.
No.
It's all very well saying it's great to keep in the fridge.
I've done some research here. The first tinned food factory in the world was created by a guy called Brian Donkin.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit of a strange name. Donkin sounds like donkey, doesn't it? But it's Donkin. Was created by British engineer Brian Donkin in 1813. It was in Bermondsey, South London. That's where you live, right?
I don't live in Bermondsey, but not far away.
Well, you have to pass through Bermondsey to get home, don't you?
That's true. Well, it depends which way I'm going.
Yeah. Its operation in Bermondsey, South London produced tinned beef, mutton and soup for the Royal Navy.
Tinned beef soup? Sounds like a man after your own heart.
Tinned beef, tinned mutton and tinned soup for the Royal Navy. And by the way, of course, I saw some movement of Royal Navy ships at the weekend.
Did you?
Hey, I tell you what I saw in Gosport. It was amazing. It was amazing, right? I was waiting to get on the ferry to go across the water to come back the other way. And these two kids whizzed up.
What do you mean you've been waiting to go across the water to come back the other way?
Well, it's from Portsmouth to Gosport.
Oh, you were on the way home?
That's right, on the way back. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And what happened was, these two kids whizzed up on... I don't know what they were. A seg thing. Segway. Now, a Segway is quite a big platform, isn't it?
It is,
stand on.
And it's got a long sort of pole and then the handlebars are quite high.
Okay. Right. These kids arrived on a device which was no more than 18 inches wide.
Well, like a sort of skateboard.
It was like a reverse skateboard.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right, Mike. Like a skateboard, but not pointing longwards, pointing widthwise.
Isn't that this new thing, the new craze that everybody's got?
Widthwise, they stood on it.
Yeah.
The wheels were on either end, right and left, below their feet.
Yeah.
And they simply just moved like a horse's carriage.
Right.
It was fantastic to see their control.
Were they motorised?
No.
Are you sure?
Honest to God, their control over these boards, everybody just stopped and looked at them in amazement. Right. They were whizzing around.
Are these not the things all the footballers are being spotted using
maybe,
as well?
Maybe, but what was that? That's not a Segway, is it?
It's not a Segway, no. I'm not sure what you call it, but it's probably got a name.
Right, well, these kids, because obviously 16-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds...
They're quite expensive, I think, aren't they?
I think they're very expensive because I tell you, whatever they are and however they're driven, they are as fascinating to me as an internal combustion engine car must have been fascinating to Georgian people who thought,
it's
got no horses. In the reign of King George, you idiot.
Oh, right.
Look at that car's moving without any horses.
Yeah.
That's why they call them a horseless carriage, obviously, because there's no horses.
Yeah.
Well, these, I'm telling you, I just couldn't work out.
Even though they still use horsepower, strangely enough, as the amount of, pull that they have.
Yeah, but that's all down to do with ploughing in fields, isn't it? That's where that came from. Yeah, of course it did, yeah. Horsepower. Of course it did. If you needed 6 horses to pull your plough...
Well, it seems ridiculous.
That was
they
6
still
horsepower.
Use it now, doesn't it?
No, not at all. They use it in Formula 1 motor racing.
Yeah, but shouldn't they phase that out?
What do you think the horsepower is of a Formula 1 motor racing car?
A horsepower? I don't know, 5,000?
No, 630.
OK.
And the horsepower of, like, your Merc or my Merc is about...
About 50 or something?
No, about 120.
Is it?
Yes, about something like that.
See, this is what I mean. I don't know how many horsepower.
Well, I don't know much about it, but I mean, I know that. Anyway, the point of my story
What is the point of your story?
I wouldn't mind getting one of those boards. Those kids were whistling around.
We'll have to find out what the name of it is. We'll have to get you one. Well, because I think you have to be quite athletic, to be able to use it.
I tell you what.
And you have to have a good sense of balance.
Oh, definitely.
Which I'm not sure you've got.
I tell you what, the speed they're whizzing around at, if you came off one of those, you'd hurt yourself, honestly.
Well, you would, yeah.
And it just made me wonder what the future of pedestrianisation is going to be. Because if you've got literally hundreds of people whizzing around like that...
Well, they're not going to be, are they?
Of course they are.
No.
Of course they are. You've got a problem.
Because if that was the case, people would be skateboarding all over the place and you wouldn't be able to walk on the pavement.
No, Mike, this is not a skateboard.
No, I know it's not a skateboard, but a skateboard is as much of a kind of a fad for people as this is. You know, there's still lots of people who take skateboarding very seriously.
Yeah.
They go to skateboarding parks, they get involved in competitions.
Sure, but at least...
this is just a passing fad.
But at least with skateboarding, you have one foot on the skateboard and then one off it to propel yourself, don't you?
No, you have 2 feet on a skateboard.
Well, if you're going downhill, you do. But you can't... A skateboard can't move on a level surface without you giving it some...
Well, how can this thing move
energy.
on a level surface?
This is what I don't know. This is what I don't know. But I know that the
principle... I'm sure it's not moving, by magic, is it?
It is moving by magic. That's what I'm saying,
believe that it's moving by magic?
What I'm saying is there's some magic principle. A Segway works, doesn't it? Simply by the way you...
No, Segway's electric.
No, it's not electric. It's not electric.
You've got battery.
No, it works because if you lean forward, you are then creating a dynamic force which takes you forward, aren't you? And if you lean back, it stops.
Segways are electric.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, they have a big battery.
Yeah, of course
and
they
you have to charge it up.
Yeah, probably.
Well, these must have had batteries.
Well,
then.
they must have a battery underneath.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
We'll find out what they're called.
But it was fantastic to see them. I couldn't believe it. And this was a queue of people waiting to get on the ferry, and these kids whizzed down and whizzed back. So they had power coming uphill as well.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Honestly, I thought, wow, I must get one of those. Sort of, and have a look at it and see what it is. But
I'll see if I can find out what they're called. And I'll see if we can find out how much they might cost you.
Yeah,
because I mean, they might be affordable.
Yeah, they might be. Yeah.
You never know.
But they might be. Yeah, might be affordable. So that was that was incredible. Now then, 2 schoolboys. I picked this up when I went to try and find out what this machine was. Right, in Bedford late last week.
Yeah.
The first recorded crimes in this country of teenagers being mugged for their Segway.
For their Segway?
Stolen off them.
Not for one of these things?
No, stolen off them.
Right.
The battery-powered self-balancing machines, which users stand on to be carried along, can cost up to £6,000.
Yeah.
Detective Constable Chris Avery said this was a terrifying ordeal for the boys who were robbed at knife point. It's a nasty crime and it will not be tolerated.
That's not nice, is it?
So this is the first case, and they're 15-year-olds, these two, robbed at knife point in Bedford.
Right.
I mean, that is tantamount, Mike, to carjacking.
Yeah.
That is tantamount to being at a red light in a town and having somebody whip open the door and produce a knife, say, get out of your car.
And it's happening to a lot of people with their bikes being stolen now.
Yes, it is, yeah. It is. It's right, yeah. It's horrifying.
I think these things are called double balancing electric scooters.
Have you got a picture of one?
No, not yet.
Right, we'll get a picture up and I'll tell you if it's the same thing that I saw.
I will.
It was quite amazing.
I'll let you know how much it costs.
It's the future of pedestrianisation, without a shadow of a doubt.
I don't think so.
Oh, it is.
I think it's entirely a fad.
No, don't be silly. If it's convenient and people can use it and it helps you propel you along the pavement, believe me, it is. And by the way, later on the show, I'm going to talk about people who are now absolutely campaigning that cyclists should have to pass a cycle test before they're allowed on the road.
Got a couple of texts and tweets to read out to you before I try and find a picture of this double-headed scooter thing that you've been talking about.
Yeah.
One is from Jake, who's a loyal TalkSport listener in Aberdeen, would you believe. He says, great show, guys. Can you give a shout-out to Aberdeen and the manager, Derek McInnes?
Right.
6 wins out of 6, top of the league, history made.
Wow.
Best start to a season ever. Beat Celtic 2-1 with 10 men, making us all very proud of our team. We play Hamilton tonight, hoping for 7. It won't be long till he's snapped up by a bigger club in England, hopefully Newcastle, because I'm a big fan. Do either of you take notice of Scottish football? I know many don't. Look out this season, lads. Aberdeen are going to win the league, and McInnes is the new Fergie. Mark my words, he says.
We're going up to Scotland on December the 5th to see the boys in Glasgow. So if anybody's down there from Aberdeen, we'll enjoy hearing about the great success of your club.
We will indeed.
So they're the pacemakers now in the Scottish Premier League over Celtic. Yeah, of course they are. Yeah.
And you knew that anyway, probably.
Of course I knew
David
that.
says this. Earlier this season, I watched the Newcastle v Arsenal game on TV. Despite getting a player sent off early on, which will affect any team, I was shocked to witness a totally inept and insipid display by Newcastle. They spent most of the game chasing the ball and fouling Arsenal players. Blaming the referee, which many Geordies did, was a joke, as their subsequent results have proved. They are in trouble and relegation candidates.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Now, something else I want to bring up with you, right, and something which I've never got credit for, particularly from you, but I deserve credit now in a huge way.
What do you want credit for now?
Well, for spotting a trend which everybody else missed.
All right.
Now, Stephen Gerrard has written a book. He's gone to LA to start his new life, new career.
He has.
And a journalist from The Guardian has been compiling his thoughts, his memories, his autobiography for the past 6 months.
Yeah.
That book's now come out.
Right.
Serialised
by the Daily Mail.
In the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday, and fantastic revelations. I mean, honestly, Gerrard says that he doesn't think Rafa Benitez liked him. Benitez always called him Gerrard, but he called all the players by their Christian names, despite the fact that Gerrard, turned around that incredible game when they were 3-0 down. That is it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
That's it.
Sorry, folks, to interrupt here.
I've just got a picture of a two-wheel balanced electric
MG
scooter.
being very rude
So
again and
it's
interrupting
electric.
my flow.
So
What
it's
is it?
electric.
What is it called?
It's called a two-wheel balanced electric scooter.
Right. And how does it balance if it's on two little wheels and it's just a plank? Has it got more wheels underneath it or something?
Well, just a plank. I mean, you say that, but I mean, if you stand on it, presumably your own balance is what balances it.
Yeah, it must be.
That's like saying how do you balance a bike?
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Two wheels,
Where's the battery? I don't see a battery in it.
Well, I imagine it's underneath that little pit where you put your foot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can't be a very big battery, that, can it?
Well, it doesn't need a big battery, does it?
Well, it would do to propel a human being, I'd have thought.
Not necessarily.
Anyway, let's get back to Gerrard.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so getting back to the Gerrard situation. Anyway, the main piece of the book, which has rung a bell with me so far, is him talking about playing for England under Capello. And he says that it was very frustrating because Fabio Capello's command of English was so poor that he couldn't communicate with the players.
No.
Now, how long did I go on banging on about that?
You did say
that
for
for
a
5 or
long
6
time.
years that Capello was in charge. I kept saying this won't work.
But didn't he have a interpreter or something? Surely he had an interpreter.
He didn't have an interpreter officially, but every time we used to get invited to go and have lunch with Capello, in some Swiss Italian restaurant, the chap who was an old pal of mine, who was the London correspondent for El Gazzetta de Sport, the Italian magazine.
Yeah.
I've forgotten his name now.
Gazzetta de Sport.
Yeah, El Gazzetta de Sport, because he's just retired. He retired 2 years ago.
Right.
I saw him on the tube the other day. I said hello to him. And
He recognise you?
of course, yeah. He came and hugged me and all this kind of stuff.
He hugged you?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
Why?
Well, because Italian people do.
Really?
That's what Italian males do. They
Wasn't
hug
that
each
guy
other.
we speak to now, Tancredi Palmieri? Was
No, it's not him. No. Oh, no, I know Tancredi very well. Yeah, he's a good guy. He's much younger. He's not retired yet. Yeah. But, but he always used to act as interpreter at these lunches. And I made it absolutely clear, this can't possibly work. How can you communicate with his players? And Gerrard makes 2 points. One, his grasp of English was so poor over the years that they couldn't believe he didn't start to learn it, which is a terrible insult.
Because he promised that he would, didn't he?
He promised he would, and we're giving him £5 or £6 million a year, so that was disgraceful. He said he had this overbearing presence within the camp, but that was largely because he didn't speak to anybody, so you thought he was the strong, silent type, you know what I mean? And some players even said when they were coming down a corridor at a hotel and they saw the boss coming the other way, they'd try and dive into a room so as not to get his icy glare as they walked past him. Right. But in fact, the only reason he didn't speak to them was he couldn't communicate with them. Right. And Gerrard said the way he let you know if you were in favour or not was he'd come into the room, then he'd come over to me, that's Gerrard, who was England captain, and he'd shoulder charge him. You know, that sort of matey thing, you know. And
sort of macho hug type thing.
Yeah, sort of shoulder charge him, wink at him. And Gerrard said that was the best form of communication for him to say, I'm quite happy with what you're doing.
Did you see that thing that was trendy a few years ago that people used to do when they would shake your hand and then they would kind of move their shoulder in to kind of bang your shoulder?
Really?
Did you ever get anybody to do that to you?
No, what was that about?
Well, it was just some kind of posy thing that, you know what some guys do.
Yeah.
Sort of a London thing to do. And you would shake hands with them and they would move their shoulder in. As if to touch shoulders with you, like it was some kind of bonding exercise.
No, I wouldn't have gone for that.
I hated that.
I'd have said, what are you doing this for, you know? But, no, but the next point he made, and I made this point repeatedly, and football aficionados shouted me down and said, don't be ridiculous, football's an international language. Gerrard said in the middle of a game, if he was called over to the touchline, Capello was gabbling away in Italian, and Gerrard simply didn't know what he wanted to say to him. He didn't know what message he was trying to get over, because in the heat of the moment, his English completely failed him. He couldn't speak at any speed whatsoever, and he'd revert to Italian. Yeah. And so Gerrard said, you know, it was a very difficult communication problem.
He's a curious character, though, because remember there would be scenes sometimes when he was sitting on the touchline, and he'd be sitting next to Stuart Pearce. Yes. And sometimes, for no apparent reason, he would just whack Stuart Pearce.
He'd start slapping him, wouldn't he?
He would either slap him hard or punch him on the knee or kind of punch his chest. I mean, he's a very tactile man.
Well, do you know, it's funny you should say this. Gerrard made another comment in the book about Stuart Pearce, and he accused him of being opportunist and cowardly. Yeah. Because when Stuart Pearce took the one game in which he was in charge of England, it must have been following Capello's departure.
That's right, it was the final game, wasn't it?
It was one game. He said for 3 days, Pearce never said anything to him while the team were, you know, in training, warming up for the game. Right. He said at the last minute, he took him aside into a bathroom in the, you know, the changing rooms, hotel, and said, I'm making... you know, the Parker, Scotty Parker. That's right. Captain of England tonight.
That's right, I remember that, yeah. And everybody was really shocked.
And Gerrard said, oh, and the way Stephen Gerrard's interpreted it, and this is a great book, by the way, his inner thoughts are expressed with great clarity and intelligence, Stephen Gerrard says, it was clear to me that Stuart Pearce was trying to make a name for himself in his one game in charge of England because he wanted the job. And so, whether or not it was...
So he felt like he had to do something.
Well, exactly. Whether or not he thought it was a tactical mastermind move or not, I don't know. But he wanted to demonstrate to the people who are going to appoint the next England manager, wow, this man's brave enough to make a big decision.
Right.
And he said, and frankly, I found it insulting, I found it humiliating, and it would be.
Yeah.
Stephen Gerrard was easily a much better leader and player than Scotty Parker. With great respect to Scotty Parker, even Scotty Parker was astonished to be made England captain that night. Well, I think he was.
That wasn't the game where he ended up like heading the ball sort of out of the penalty area. Or, remember, he was sort of on his hands and knees, and
I think
he
was
throwing himself in front of the ball.
Think it was,
he worked very hard for England, but he wasn't exactly the same talent as Stephen Gerrard.
No, of course he wasn't. Nothing like the talent of Stephen Gerrard, nor did he have the track record of lifting, the European Champions League or anything like that. But it's a fascinating book. But I'm vindicated in my defence. The other thing, right, and I've always said this, right, and this is not in Stephen Gerrard's book.
Yeah.
When John Terry had the problem over the allegations that he'd been having a kind of relationship with another player's wife.
Wayne Bridge.
The other player being Wayne Bridge, because they lived near to each other in Cobham in Surrey, because they both played for Chelsea.
Right.
Now, that led to Capello, for some unknown reason, getting involved in a disciplinary hearing with John Terry.
Which he hated, right?
Now, John Terry said at the time, I thought, I'd just invite him round to my house and he could talk to me and all that kind of stuff. Instead of which, John Terry is summoned to Wembley in a very high-profile situation in which everybody was told when it was going to take place. Right. So the world's media's waiting outside Wembley. He goes in and comes out 12 minutes later. And at the time, everybody said, wow, Capello, the man of steel. Right. John Terry came into the meeting. Within 10 minutes, Capello had sacked him as captain. The rod of iron, the iron disciplinarian. Yeah. My view on that one, having spoken to people who were at the time, is that, again, Capello had no command of English. Yeah. He didn't even really understand what the issue was.
And was he the only person in the room, or were there others?
No, there were others. There were other sort of FA advisors. Yeah. And so he basically said, yeah, whatever, literally, and then John Terry lost the captaincy of England. Right. And do you know what? Do you know what backs that up?
That doesn't sound to me like Capello would have been the instigator of that, though. Wouldn't the FA have been the instigator?
I think they were. That's what I mean.
They just told him to do it.
I think Capello had to make a decision one way or the other, so just said, whatever. Now, I think that what backs me up in that is that 3 years later, Capello then fell out with the FA when he wanted to reappoint John Terry as England captain, and they didn't want him to.
Exactly.
So what on earth was going on in those days? Nobody knows, and nobody knows because Capello didn't speak English, wouldn't learn English, and took £5 million a year from the FA without even having the courtesy to communicate.
Once again, I'm afraid I've only one thing to say. I blame the FA. I don't blame Capello. Don't blame a guy for coming to get £6 million a year and not even bothering to speak English because nobody bothered to make sure that he did. He took us for a laugh, didn't he? Did the same to Russia. They got rid of him.
Yeah,
he's become a very wealthy man as a result.
You could be saying that. But anyway, the old Joe 90 jides and all that. I mean, he's not that stupid if he did what you just said he did and got away with it.
Exactly right.
And pocketed about 15 million quid. You've just got an art collection worth £10 million.
I was going to say, Joe 90 million.
Yeah, exactly. A former footballer in Italy who's now an incredibly wealthy man and a purveyor of the arts in Europe and all that. I don't know where we went wrong.
That's a statement you'll hear quite a lot on this show. Anyway, look into the light for a moment, because we're running late, as ever. We're going to talk about Jerry Corbyn and a bit of politics coming up on Talk Sport. Remember Citizen Smith?
Yeah, was that Wolfie?
That was Wolfie, yeah. That was a great show.
What was the name of the actor? Robert?
What's his name? Lindsay.
Robert Lindsay, yeah.
I interviewed Robert Lindsay once, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, very funny man.
Right, OK. And do you know what the connection is there? This is so interesting. Yeah. Yesterday, David Blunkett, Home Secretary in New Labour...
Former Home Secretary,
Former Home Secretary in New Labour, warned that one of the problems with the militant left, who've now inherited the earth in the Labour Party...
Yeah, well, they've inherited the Labour Party.
They've inherited the Labour Party, that's right.
It's not much to inherit to the Labour Party.
He said it attracts thuggery.
Does he?
It attracts bully boys.
Yeah.
It attracts people who lean on you. It attracts extremist elements, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they had a picture of David Blunkett face to face, even though David Blunkett is blind, obviously, but facing up face to face with Derek Hatton.
Oh yeah,
who led militant,
of course,
in Liverpool in the
Neil Kinnock time
in the 80s. That's right. Yeah. And, of course, guess who Robert Lindsay played in a TV drama which illustrated the way Liverpool...
Oh, did he play Derek Hatton?
He played Derek Hatton.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I'd like
absolutely.
to see that.
Yeah.
Because Hatton was one of those characters, wasn't he, that kind of emerged out of the militant movement and actually became quite a successful entrepreneur.
Hatton's an amazing man. Hatton's an amazing man.
Personality on TV, on radio.
He was
used to do a show here, didn't he?
Yeah,
at one point.
I employed him.
Did you?
Yeah. I mean, he's an amazing man because he was leader of the militant tendency in Liverpool, even though officially he wasn't. That wasn't his title. They had a guy who was top. But Hatton was the energy behind it all and drove the extreme left-wing policies. He then seemed to have sort of given up on them when... Labour got booted into touch under in the Thatcher years and all that.
Right.
I saw an interview with him a few years later in which he said they've all gone away now, it'll never happen again and all that. In between time, he'd been reborn as a radio DJ and worked here at Talk Sport, right? And then went off and became an entrepreneur, as you're quite rightly saying, websites and all sorts of things, and I think property abroad and all that, and has become, I'm told... because he's a big Evertonian, so I see him and his friends up at Everton, a very wealthy man. Good luck to him.
Yeah.
I haven't got a problem with all that. That's great.
Is he still a militant member of the left now that he's worth so much money?
Well, I don't know the answer to that one, but I do know... I've seen, I think, one reference to him signalling how pleased he is that this Corbyn revolution has come about. Yeah. But I haven't actually seen him, jumping up and down, waving the flags and all that kind of stuff. That song we've just played, Keep the Red Flag Flying...
Yeah.
In the intervening years, since it went away, I think the last guy who used to sing it as Prime Minister was Jim Callaghan.
Well, I mean, they stopped singing it when they got rid of Clause 4. When the Blairites came in, I mean, that was what killed off, Clause 4, which was all about nationalising British industry and getting rid of the red flag and all those kind of...
But I think even Kinnock actually gave up on it, you know what I mean?
When I saw Jeremy Corbyn and his team singing Keep the Red Flag Flying, it was almost like a comedy moment.
It was,
I agree, is old Wolfie going to walk in from the side door and get power to the people? I mean, the Russians don't even sing it anymore.
But what I was going to say to you was, when I heard it starting there, what I expected to hear was, because this is the only place I hear this song now, is at Chelsea, when all the guys around me are singing, we'll keep the blue flag flying there, because they've changed it to the blue flag.
Yeah, but it's been an extraordinary few days, because for me, we're going to talk to John Le Boutillier in a minute over in America, because I'm always interested to know what the Americans make of all of this. Because in the papers this morning, the Tories put out this thing, which I thought gave them a bit too much credit, really.
Yeah, go on.
Say, Jeremy Corbyn is now a danger to Britain's, security, to Britain's foreign policy.
Well, that was a personal tweet from Cameron.
Yeah, it was, yeah. But, I mean, the point is, this guy is leader of a party which is now completely riven, right?
Yeah.
All of the people who were running it before have run to the hills, apart from Andy Burnham, your mate. The bloke who would apparently back anybody, and work for anybody. Yeah. Everybody else has said, we don't want to work for this guy.
Yeah.
The guy they've put in as the shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, McDonnell, he formally has said in the past that, he would actually quite like for IRA leaders to be honoured.
That's right, yeah.
Because of their fight against the British, elitist state and
That's
all this.
right.
He's also come out and said that he would quite like to put something like 60% tax on shared dealings.
Yes.
He'd like to also say that there are no leaders in the Labour Party anymore because it's all a big collective.
Yes.
It's all a bit mad. I mean, and to say, but in the papers this morning, Labour MPs themselves are having a row with Corbyn saying, we want you to now deny that you're going to oppose the renewal of Trident because they don't want him to be part of that anti-nuclear brigade.
That's right.
And it just seems to me that the amount of, newsprint and I know we're talking about it now, but the amount of television coverage that's been given over to this guy, when he's no longer he's no closer to being Prime Minister than I am.
Yeah, well, you say that, but stranger things have happened, haven't they? Because the Mrs. Thatcher emerged from a morass of political infighting, indecision, basically lack of belief and all that kind of stuff. The one thing this guy's got, and Peter Hitchens, who you could say is a right-wing commentator, although a lot of people can't quite understand
he hates
politics.
Cameron, doesn't he?
He hates Cameron, but he is basically believes in very strong old-fashioned Tory values, in my view, although it's hard to work him out. But even he said yesterday in his column in the Mail on Sunday, he said, this man's got principles. Whatever you think... You've just mentioned Andy Burnham, right?
Well, he hasn't got any principles.
Flip-flopping all over the place during the course of the leadership election, that, of course I'd never work with Corbyn, and then, I might work with Corbyn, and then I want to work with Corbyn.
Depending on now I am working with him.
And in fact, I am now working with Corbyn and all this kind of stuff, changing position every day. Yeah. But Peter Hitchens said, at least this man's got principles. That's why people are attracted to him. Mrs Thatcher had principles. Yeah. Mrs Thatcher didn't say, 1 minute, I'll do this, and then think, oh no, the political wind has changed, I think I'll do something else. She just stuck by and this guy will stick by what he believes in.
Well, he probably will, but I mean, whether he then gets into any... I mean, I've heard a lot of people saying over the last few days, well, at least now people will have a voice who haven't had a voice. I don't see how they will have a voice, first of all, because I don't know if he's going to stay in charge for the entire period of the next Parliament, because the Labour Party might sort of kill itself, itself, or do something.
I know they're planning to try and assassinate him politically as soon as possible, aren't they?
Well, and that's what the papers are doing. But I mean, the other problem is that he hasn't had any kind of training, it would seem, in how to deal with the media. I don't know if you saw that footage from the other night.
Oh, it was unbelievable. He called a police car over.
Well, he called a police car over because he was being asked questions by a Sky TV crew.
That's right, yeah.
And he said, these people are bothering me. Yeah. And he refused to answer questions. And the reporter was going, well, why don't you want to answer questions? Yeah. Did you not think you would be asked questions as the new leader of the Labour Party?
We're not bothering you.
He also, when he was doing his shadow cabinet reshuffle, he did it in a room where everybody outside the room from the lobby could hear what he was doing.
Yeah, I know.
So they got all the details of all the people who were turning him down. Yeah. They also then did the story about how, he didn't appoint enough women. He's now decided to appoint loads more women.
Yeah, but all the top jobs have gone to men.
Yeah, but this guy McDonnell says, but we don't regard those top jobs as any different from any other job, so they're not actually top jobs.
No, but even commentators in the Daily Mirror, which is probably the most supportive Labour Party paper in this country.
Yeah, but they've never supported Corbyn.
They've never supported Corbyn, but they are solid support. I mean, Piers Morgan used to be the editor of it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Their chap Kevin Maguire, who's well known as a very
he's very much a union man, isn't he?
Yeah, very outspoken sort of left wing.
But I don't think he's in the Corbyn camp, is he?
No. Even he says, they've picked a boys' club for the senior posts inside the Labour opposition. Yeah, and all this kind of stuff. It's all fascinating stuff.
Well, it is.
Politics are fascinating.
And I think the one thing that is good about it is at least there will be a little bit of a debate going on, a little bit of a change of choice. Because there was a time, was there not, when Blair and Brown and the Tories were sort of arguing against each other all the time. There was nothing to choose between them.
I couldn't believe it when Cameron nominated himself as heir to Blair. Yeah. What on earth did that mean?
But they could be the same. But they could be in the same party.
They could be in the same party, except for a few things like welfare spending and all that kind of stuff. Except that Cameron spends all our welfare money abroad. And maybe the Labour Party
he spends an awful lot over here. One interesting thing, when I was talking to the guys on the sports bar earlier, and I said I wasn't sure if Corbyn was an Arsenal fan, even though he does live in Islington. Right. Apparently, not only is he an Arsenal fan, but back in 2004, he actually put through an early day motion, right, calling for Arsenal to be recognised as, quotes, the best football club team in the world at the moment.
Really?
So he actually put that through Parliament.
And has he got a season ticket?
I don't know if he does. I would imagine. I would hope so if he feels that strongly about them.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, he is leading out of Her Majesty's opposition. Yeah. Does that mean he's got to go and pledge his allegiance to the Queen?
Well, he has. In fact, the front page of the Sun this morning says that in order to get his hands on £6.2 million of public cash, he has to go and kiss the Queen's hand.
Right.
Even though he hates her.
Okay,
well... So that should be fun. The Prime Minister's questions, as Irish one points out, should be good on Wednesday.
Well, except that he's not going to attend most of them.
Well, we don't know that, do we?
No. Most of the Prime Minister's questions are going to be given over to other people to give them the chance, which I think will be ridiculous.
Well, that'll be just crazy.
Crazy. I mean, old Tom Watson is his deputy, isn't he? And he is he looks much more like the sort of guy who could, present himself.
He's quite a clever guy.
As Prime Minister's question. Oh, of course he is. He's the man who has actually been quite instrumental in a lot of these investigations into alleged sexual crimes over the years and this kind of stuff. But he is very much a man of the persuasion of the people currently run the Labour Party. So for him, it's a brave new world and all that kind of stuff. The Union see it as a brave new world. Len McCluskey, who was the very, very militant leader of Unite, thinks that his Christmases have all come at once. So it is a blinking fascinating period in our political history. I'm telling you,
it certainly is. And we're going to talk to John Le Boutillier coming up next to find out what they're saying about it in America. Good. But while he's on, we should ask him about whether Donald Trump could be the president of the United States as well.
No,
a lot of people are starting to say
that's a joke. That was a joke.
A lot of people are starting to say it could happen.
But Hillary Clinton is also running into all sorts of problems. Yeah. See, they've unearthed another 30,000 emails.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We'll talk to John coming up next on
Definitely.
Talk Sport.
You wait for Champions League football live on Talk Sport.
Champions of Europe again.
Get set for 2 days of exhilarating European football action.
kicking off tonight from 7 with full match commentary of PSV versus Manchester United.
What a delightful scissor kick from Juan Mata.
Follow tomorrow night at 7 by Dynamo Zagreb versus Arsenal.
An exquisite finish from Alexis Sanchez.
With a full-on post-match phone-in after all the action.
UEFA Champions League football live on Talk Sport.
Outside the of America, outside them from themselves, outside the suntan surfer boys and the Californian girls. When the lights go out in the rest of the world, what do our cousins say? They're flying in the
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. There's loads and loads of great tweets coming in, which we will get to very, very shortly. Many of them about Jeremy Corbyn, and one of them actually says, "How about Mike Parry for Prime Minister?"
Yeah, good idea.
That's from Jack.
I'd get things moving.
I'm not sure you'd pass the skeletons in the cupboard test. To be
oh
honest.
yes, I certainly would.
Well,
there's nothing about my life that is a secret.
Really?
Everything
What
is.
about your age?
No, that's not a secret.
Isn't it?
No, that's publishable everywhere. Anybody can check on that.
How old are you then?
Whenever they want. People don't want to hear that, Mike. People do not want to hear that. Don't hear boring individual details.
Right. OK. Well, I'll tell you what, let's talk to a man who knows an awful lot about the internal wranglings of party politics. John Le Boutillier, former congressman from the United States of America, of course. We will ask you, John, a little bit later on about how excitable everybody's getting about the possibility that Donald Trump might yet be president.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me, has anyone taken any notice of the election of this very sort of left-wing, rather militant Labour MP who's now the head of the Labour Party?
Oh, yeah. Well, over here, first of all, the average American pays no attention to English politics, so that's clear. But the people in the political world over here, they pay a lot of attention to it. And they know that often what happens in your country is a precursor to what happens here. And the one you've heard recently when this comes up, the two of them really are Margaret Thatcher gets in at 79 and starts her program, and a year later, Reagan, almost a mirror image of it here. And they had quite a decade together in the 80s. And then in your Labor Party, one after the other, whether I can't remember who came first, but Tony Blair there and Bill Clinton here.
Yeah.
The sort of more moderate style and substance as opposed to hardcore left wing. Now, this guy, Corbyn, is the Bernie Sanders of English politics. And many people in the Democratic Party saw this weekend and said this is what's happening in the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Now, Bernie Sanders, I seem to remember Bernie Sanders way back around before Clinton came to the White House, he was running as an independent and got himself elected as an independent senator, didn't he?
Correct, in Vermont.
Right.
Even though he comes from New York, he had moved to Vermont and was way out there politically, out of the mainstream, and ran, you're correct, he was called an independent, but by his own admission, he was a socialist, and which is unheard of in this country.
Right.
Frankly, socialists, other than in Vermont, you're not going to make it. Vermont is kind of way out there. And to run for president, he has switched his registration to be a Democrat, because you have to do that legally. If you're going to run in the Democratic primaries, you have to be a member of that party. But I was just going to say, the most popular, passionate Democrat, I really think, is Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts. And I think the heart of the Democratic Party, the way the heart of Labor went this weekend for your new leader there, I think that's where the Democrats really would like to go here, is with Elizabeth Warren.
Well,
not Hillary, and not even Sanders, because Sanders, frankly, is unelectable. He's 72 years old. It's not going to happen. But a younger a woman like Elizabeth Warren is the one who could really pull that thing together. And she's very liberal, too. So.
John, if you don't mind me saying, I don't think any American politician could ever go anywhere near down the road that Corbyn's going down, the main reason being that he wants to get rid of the nuclear deterrent. So, I mean, nobody in America can possibly copy that policy. Nobody in America can copy the policy that he believes strongly in communicating and dealing directly with terrorism and terrorists. He thinks that's the way to solve the problem. So although I agree that there is a transatlantic unity of airy-fairy liberal ideas between the Democrats in your country and elements of the Labour Party in our country, these are specific policies designed to radically change the freedom of the free world. And I just can't see anybody in America getting anywhere near it.
Right, I think you're right. But I just think the idea that the most liberal person has taken over Labor there is probably, we're not as liberal in the Democratic Party as you are in Labor, but the most liberal person running for president here is winning in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. Yeah. They are winning.
I mean, this has been very much a young people's vote to a large extent, people who have been supposedly disenfranchised from politics for a long time. And I was saying to Mike earlier, John, actually, although we're all kind of fooling about laughing at it, and it should provide some wonderful entertainment from the Speaker's chair and all the rest of it over the course of the next few weeks and months. I mean, in the end, it's not a bad thing, is it, for two parties in a two-party system to be at least sort of opposing each other in many ways, which for a long time they haven't in this country.
No, I think it's good, and I think instead of having two parties that are very similar and aping each other, I think it works better when the voters see a contrast and a clear difference between the two, and then the arguments are made better and more clearly and with more passion, frankly. Tony, exactly right. Over here they used to call Tony Blair Tony Blur because he tried to blur what he stood for, and you could never really get anything out of him. What did he really stand for? And he ends up supporting George W. Bush and the WMD in Iraq thing as much as a Margaret Thatcher or John Major would have.
Johnny did, but it was obvious to us here a long time before Tony Blair went over there and was applauded by Congress for his stand after 9/11. Everybody in this country knew this was opportunism of the most cynical kind, that he was already looking to retirement after being the Prime Minister of England, and he wanted to butter up to the Americans in some way. And, of course, all that will now be revealed when the delayed Chilcot report gets published, and we'll find out what's going on there. But the other difference here, John, about Corbyn leading the Labour Party in this country is if he becomes Prime Minister of this country, the special relationship, if it still exists, will have to be broken immediately, because America are not going to hand over any defence secrets to a man who doesn't want the nuclear deterrent and who is on friendly terms with people like Mr. Putin, with the Syrians, with the IRA. It would be impossible for you to share secrets with us.
Yeah, you're right. It's a disaster in the making.
Let's talk, John, about what's going on the Republican side, because for months people have been saying to me, it's surely not possible for Donald Trump to become president. And I used to say, absolutely not, ridiculous idea, don't be stupid. But the closer it gets to November, I'm beginning to wonder if I might be wrong.
Well, it's not impossible, but I still don't think it's likely, and I'll tell you why. You don't hear this anywhere else, but I don't really think Trump wants to be president. I think that he started this campaign 3 months ago tomorrow, I think it was, mostly on a lark, and partly to get a better TV deal out of NBC.
Well, this is what Corbyn has said. Corbyn said that he only really threw his hat into the ring because he wanted to have a proper debate about what the Labour Party should be about. Lo and behold, he's now become the leader, and he probably quite likes it.
Right, but there's a slight difference. Corbyn is a career politician. He's been elected to Parliament and all that. He's been in the political game. Trump obviously has never run for office before. He's 69 years old. It'll be 70 next year when the presidential race goes on. If a guy is 70 and he's never wanted to run for public life, how likely is it at 70 years old that he's really serious about wanting this career change at 70. I think it's more an ego trip that got out of hand, and he's enjoying the hell out of it, no question about it. He loves it. But underneath it, he knows the day is coming in the next few months where he's going to have to look himself in the eye and say, do I really want to be the president, or do I just love the adoration and adulation of the whole thing? And I think we have a recent precedent for this, which is 1992, when another billionaire ran.
H. Ross Perot.
Big ego, Ross Perot.
Yeah.
After 4 months of campaigning, he, in June of 92, was leading the President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, the Democratic nominee. And what did Perot do? Dropped out of the race.
He did, yeah. That's right.
He dropped out because he really didn't want to be president. His deal, he really ran to screw Bush.
But
I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I agree with you there, John. I was in America at the time. I did that. I did that campaign with Clinton. But isn't it the fact, this is one of the things we look at from this side of the Atlantic, that one of the failings of American politics is that America offers so much to people who are energetic, enterprising, industrious, wide-thinking. There's so much in America that you can do to make your life great. Politics isn't very, very high up that list of priorities if you want to have a great life.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So you don't get quality people running for the presidency anymore, really. Not until they've achieved something else in life and they get bored, and decide they're a billionaire businessman and now I might have a pop at the presidency because, as in the case of Donald Trump, opportunism then rears its head. Oh, there is an opportunity here because actually the other candidates are so poor, I can bring forth my talent to generate interest about myself because I'm an entrepreneurial businessman and make myself look good.
Yeah, well, but then you get to this question. Why haven't any others ever made it?
Yeah.
There are no billionaires who've been elected president.
No, that's right. That's right. Absolutely.
It's going to be fascinating to find out over there anyway. John, listen, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. John Le Boutillier, former congressman himself. I think you might be right about Trump,
What?
I think he might be right
about
Trump.
Yeah, I'm sure he's right about Trump. I'm sure he's right. I mean, even Rockefeller, being a billionaire, he couldn't make it, could he? Because he wasn't actually a politician, so he didn't know how to politically play the game.
He's used to telling people what to do.
Exactly. I mean, I think the Trump thing is absolutely fascinating. When Donald Trump, as John just said, wakes up in the cold, hard reality one morning that he now is the President of the United States of America and he's got to spend all his time running America instead of running his businesses, he ain't going to want that.
No, I don't think he did.
Yeah.
But loads more to come. We've got winners and losers coming up, of course. We've got some fish fingers to talk about as well.
Indeed.
We go from politics to fish fingers on this show. It's the only place you can hear this kind of thing.
Definitely. And I'll talk to you about bus lanes as well.
Bus lanes
Have you heard about the bus lane that's made £6 million?
I have. Shocking.
And I drive.
We made $3 million of it from you.
And I drive parallel to it 4 days a week.
Blimey.
That's how close I am to being savaged by the bureaucracy.
This is Talk Sport.
I've been driving in my car. It's not quite a Jaguar. I bought it in Primrose Hill from a bloke from Brazil. It was made in 59.
Now, I'm not sure if I can stand another sort of motorist rant from you, but there was an extraordinary story, you're quite right, at the weekend, about these bus lanes around the country. In fact, there's one in Glasgow, I believe. There's one, I think, in Manchester. Certainly one in London, which will be the one you're referring to.
This one, Mike, this one in Lambeth, South London, appears to be the top money spinner in the UK. It's raked up £6 million in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an utter... And do you know how they do it? It is so invidious.
Well, it's all the things that you've described.
I know.
People turning right and you have to go around them.
That's right.
Moving across for emergency vehicles, all that sort of thing.
A lot of them are if you get towards the end of a bus lane, but you just simply miss it by 2 feet. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So that your left hand wheel just clips the doesn't clip. I mean, it just runs over the white line, which ends the bus lane. You get done for that.
I was going to say, I mean, technically speaking, do you have to have all 4 wheels in the bus lane, or is it just 1 or 2?
1 wheel.
If
you move over and 2 of your wheels go in, that's designated as being in the bus lane.
See, that is really taking the mickey, isn't it?
Because they say you're obstructing that bus lane in case a bus comes along.
But surely not if you're moving in it.
And despite the fact there's no buses. Yeah. But the way I saw an expert talking about this on TV.
Yeah.
And she was an expert, she's from motoring organisation, said always appeal against tickets that you get for infringing bus lanes. Yeah. And when the interviewer said, well, why? She said, because a lot of them are bogus. Yeah. She said, what do you mean? She said, they just send them out. She said, they say that you've been caught on camera, ask for the picture and you'll find there is no camera.
Right.
Well, in that case, how do you know that the vehicle was in the bus lane?
Yeah.
I don't quite understand all that.
Yeah, they must have some record, mustn't they?
Exactly. But, I mean, the worst one for me is the pressure you come under when you're in the motorist lane.
Yeah.
And the lane on your left is a bus lane.
Yeah.
And what happens is the car in front of you wants to turn right, but it's against oncoming traffic, and it takes minutes and minutes and minutes to get a break in the traffic. And you've got 4 cars behind you hooting like mad.
Yeah, but in the end...
And trying to encourage you to move over into the bus lane to overtake the car in front.
But you see,
the minute you do that, you get fined.
Well, you shouldn't do it then.
Well, I don't.
Right.
But, I mean, I do object to the sort of abuse.
Have you ever had a ticket then for being in a bus lane?
The ticket I get for bus lanes once, I bought a scooter. I decided to get around on a scooter.
When did you have a scooter?
Sorry?
When did you ever have a scooter?
A few years ago, I bought a scooter.
A few years ago?
Yeah.
I don't remember you having a scooter.
I did, honestly. The first time round here, when before the old ticker went.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so there should be a name for it, shouldn't there?
What?
Do you know how you have AD and BC?
Oh, okay. Well,
we should have some kind of sign for your ticker dispute.
Well, it's
scenario.
pre-ticker then. Okay.
PT.
Yeah, PT.
Right.
Pre-ticker.
Mind you, post-ticker would also be PT. So
well, that's true. That's true. Okay. All right. Well, it was when my heart worked, basically. Yeah. Okay. You know. Well, it didn't actually.
Yeah, but let's try and think of a thing for it.
Okay. Well, it was collapsing.
Maybe people could help us out and tweet it to us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right,
okay. In the days when Porky's heart
So, like,
worked.
you had like a Lambretta with those little hair dryers.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So I went on a training.
Did you have
course.
a helmet as well?
I had a big helmet. I got the wrong helmet because I got one of these sort of all-in helmets you place on your head. When in fact,
like the Stig.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but in fact, actually, I would have preferred one with an open face, so to speak.
You know what I mean? Goggles as well.
Yeah, and then
it looks even more ridiculous.
No, but then you can actually, get a bit more awareness of the road around you.
Yeah, but you don't swallow all the flies, though.
No, but then you put the bell on your head, so to speak. You're sort of cut off from the world.
Right.
But anyway, it's quite funny actually. I had this scooter and. I had it. I used it so little. I never actually put any petrol in it because I couldn't work out how you put this 2-stroke stuff in.
Right.
And I didn't. I was too
so
embarrassed.
don't say regular petrol.
No, it takes diesel. It takes petrol and 2-stroke.
What is that?
Well, 2-stroke's like a green fluid that you pump into.
So it's like out of a can or something?
Yeah, I think you have to carry it around with you. Right. But I went into a garage.
Yeah.
And I was embarrassed because I didn't know how to put any fuel in this scooter.
Right.
So I said to some guy, in the shop, he said, yeah, you put 2-stroke in it. And I said, oh, you got a 2-stroke pump? He said, no, you have to bring your own.
Right.
I said, well, I haven't got any here.
What's the point of carrying your own fuel around if you have to go to a petrol station?
Well, you carry the 2-stroke around, apparently, and you put it into the petrol tank when you put the petrol in.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd ridden this thing about 2 or 3 times. I have to admit, I felt quite unsafe on it because it's not a very steady vehicle.
Yeah.
And when they give you the lessons, they take the dominant position in the road, which means you have to drive in the middle of the road, not on the side like a cyclist. You see what I mean? Yeah. So cars can't.
Well, so if you're on a scooter, then now that we've got these cycle superhighways, are you not allowed in the cycle superhighway?
No, because it's got an engine, isn't it?
Oh,
no,
right.
it's a vehicle.
Yeah, okay.
So, but anyway, the point of my story is, I was thinking what to do with this scooter because I didn't know what I was going to do when it ran out of petrol because I didn't know how to put new petrol in. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So as I was thinking about it, I actually lent it to a tech op here at TalkSport who was having trouble getting to work.
Yeah.
And I said, look, do you know how to... He said, yeah. I said, do you know what 2-stroke is? He said, yeah. I said, right, well, here's 10 quid or 20 quid. Here's 20 quid.
Right.
You can borrow it to get to work because he was having problems. He was putting an early shift, right? And they wouldn't give him a taxi, because he was just an underling.
Rules,
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I said, well, you can borrow my... I was the boss then. And I said, you can borrow my scooter for a week. So this guy... And I said...
For 20 quid, you could probably keep it going for about a month, couldn't you?
I would have thought so, yeah. So I said, do you know how to put petrol in a 2-stroke? Oh, yeah, no, right, OK. So I give him 20 quid. So I fill it up with petrol and 2-stroke and then borrow it for a week because he was only doing a week of these shifts. So then bring it back. Anyway, on the last day, he came in like, bedraggled, and I said, what's happened? He said, I had to work here today. And I said, what do you...
Where was he from, this guy?
I don't know,
Norway.
No. Funny enough, he was Irish. He was an Irish lad. Yeah,
okay.
He was a very nice lad, very nice lad. He had to work here today. And I said, what happened? And he said, well, he parked the scooter at his house last night.
Yeah.
He got up someone, so he nicked it. Seriously.
The porky jinx.
Yeah. And I said, well, did you put a chain round it and all that? And he claimed he did, but I don't know, he could have done that.
Well, I think they could just chop those off now.
Well, I suppose they could have. But anyway, got nicked. So, but that wasn't the real frustration.
Yeah.
I was quite pleased, actually, because I didn't know what I was going to do with it, And so
Did you have to claim on insurance for it being nicked? Because they would have wanted to replace it. Presumably you didn't bother.
I didn't bother because the thing is, although I had an insurance policy, it was obvious that I'd been negligent in keeping the thing by lending it to somebody who wasn't even insured to drive it, frankly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
that's another crime, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. It's a bit of a crime, yeah. And so it wouldn't have been worth it, and I just wanted rid of the damn thing. So it was quite handy to have it stolen. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the point of the story is that then for the next 6 months, I kept getting all these pictures from the Metropolitan Police Force of whoever stole it disappearing into the distance, with
a load of fines attached to it.
With his just showing his back, but showing the number plate quite clearly. It was my scooter.
So presumably you'd have to then tell them it was stolen.
I did.
What a nightmare.
And I did. And then they said, oh, really? Well, that's very convenient. You didn't report it stolen before these...
Well, exactly.
And I said...
It's another crime.
Said, well, I didn't want it back, to be honest. He said, what do you mean you didn't want it back? Are you mad?
You could have ended up in a lot of trouble.
I know,
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, you start by thinking, actually, you know what? It makes much more sense for me to just forget about this.
Exactly.
But the system now doesn't let you forget about it.
No, it didn't.
I'm surprised you didn't get mega sort of fined or something.
I did, because then when I didn't pay the fine the first time, then it went up to 190 quid or something. Right. So then I said, no, this is...
So some criminal is probably still driving around on this thing.
Exactly. I said, my scooter was stolen. I said, where was it stolen from? So I told him the address. They said, that's not the address on the driver's licence. I said, well, it's not my address. He said, well, whose is it? I said, well, I let somebody use it.
Couldn't you have just said you were around at somebody's house or something?
Well, no.
And then it starts to be a lie. There's another crime.
Well, exactly. I didn't want to. And I said, But anyway, the point is...
It's a nightmare.
For about 6 months, I kept getting all these pictures of this kid driving up and down. And
Did he have your helmet on as well?
He had my helmet on. He honestly had my helmet on. The helmet was, sort of attached to the...
This is a terrible story.
I know. And
I believe you never told it before.
All he ever did was drive in bus lanes. He never drove on the road. He only drove in bus lanes, this guy. And he must have known that it was not traceable to him.
This is the thing. I mean, when people steal your car, they don't give them monkeys if they're done for speeding. I mean, whenever you get overtaken by people speeding, I always think, well, they're probably in a stolen car.
Exactly,
They don't care. Absolute nightmare.
But anyway, so I know the problem of getting done. I've never been done in a car because I refuse to go into a bus lane. But get this. One night when I was going home from here, I had to take a different route because of roadworks and all that. And I went along the embankment instead of going down through South London into Surrey.
Okay.
And after about 3 minutes of driving what I thought was the inside lane, I saw a sign saying bus lane and 24 hours a day. Right. Despite the fact that there wasn't a single bus in sight for miles.
Do you know the one that I can't work out is where it says, say, 7 to 7, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday to Sunday. What does that mean? Because some of them say Sunday, Monday to Sunday.
Does that mean Sunday night is the only night free?
I don't know, because what I think it means is it's actually 24 hours, but the 24-hour ones have got a different sign.
Yeah.
So if it says, Monday to Sunday, I just assume you can't go in it at all.
You just have to stay out of them. But anyway, look, how about this? The number of tickets for bus lane infringements has soared to more than 1 million last year from just 320,000 5 years ago. The lion's share will have led to a fine of up to £130 in London and £70 outside the capital. And the reason why local authorities are so keen on enforcing it is that the government...
Well, they get a load of money.
Here. The government gave local authorities the right to keep all the cash from these fines, whereas speeding tickets go to the Treasury.
Ah, right. That explains it then.
Exactly.
That's why they're that must be also why they're so excitable about putting in more of these cycle superhighways, because then it forces people even harder to go into bus lanes. To the bus lanes.
And therefore raise huge revenues, It's
shocking, isn't it?
Yeah. Drivers who stray just inches into bus lanes, sometimes to let through 999 vehicles, are being whacked with fines on a regular basis. How about that?
Incredible.
I think it's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, I think for once I actually agree with you. Yeah. That was a rant worth listening to.
Yeah. The AA wants an official investigation when fines from an individual bus lane exceed £10,000 in any 1 month period.
Yeah,
and
I
totally agree with you. Yeah.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an update on the NFL game in a minute because it's getting quite exciting over there in Atlantia.
Yeah.
Dave the Milkman says, "Hi guys, 2-stroke is oil you mix with petrol."
Yeah, well, that's what I thought it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about this from William? He says, "Just thought you might want to know that on this day, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, and Britain occupied New York City in 1776."
When it was called New Amsterdam, when we changed the name overnight.
Probably, yeah.
It's true. It's true.
It is true.
I know these
I didn't
things.
expect him not to be telling the truth.
I know these things.
I just thought you might want to know that.
Yeah.
But we'll be talking about a lot more. We didn't get around to fish fingers yet, which I'm going to talk to you about coming up in the next hour. We've got winners and losers coming up, of course. It's 2-1 to Porky tonight, though I'm going to be the favourite. He's going to be the retweet, so we'll see how that all goes. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Of course, you can follow us at the Two Mics. You can find us on YouTube as well. Look at Two Mics TV, where there's quite a lot of stuff going on. A couple of tweets that we haven't read out yet because we've been a bit remiss, I would say.
Yeah. Come on, get on with some of these tweets.
If
these people are good, if our listeners are good enough to communicate with us, the least you can do is read a few out.
Exactly right. Well, this is what I'm going to attempt to do without being interrupted. Neil says, "MG, it's good to see Porky's maths astounds us all again." And then he says he's enjoying the show.
What do you mean,
this
maths?
was about your 58%. Some people have just started tweeting 58%.
Yes.
D says, "Did Porky just say he stirred tinned sweet corn into mushy peas in a pan?"
Yes.
Yuck. Well, you put them together.
Yes, because peas and sweet corn go together.
Oh.
No, they do.
Well,
they're supposed to.
Well, you can put garden peas and sweet corn together and you create quite a nice kind of green and
Yes,
yellow
yes, that's what I mean.
effect. But you don't put corn into mushy peas.
Yes, you do. You do.
That sounds
It's
disgusting.
a well-known delicacy.
And here's one from Divrio who says that the tin capital is Mike Parry's head. Bill says spinach and gravy. I've just got the dry boke at work hearing that. You must have an asbestos-lined gut.
He's just got what? The dry boke?
The dry boke. This is a word you'll have to learn before we go to Glasgow.
What is that?
Boking is like sort of retching.
Oh, dear me. I'm not sure I want to know about that. Spinach is great, and it's very good for you. It's full of iron and sort of peppery stuff, and gravy is nutritious. So there's nothing wrong with it.
It is, but I don't think you want to put them together. Here's one from Mo, who says, here is a stat for Porky. A person will eat 10 spiders during their lifetime with their mouths open while sleeping.
Oh, no. Get lost.
It's not very nice,
I've never eaten a spider in my life.
Yeah. Here's one from Sean, who says, Edinburgh would have been better going by Porky's offensive language. He might well get a Glasgow kiss.
What do you mean offensive language? Offensive to who?
Well, when you were being offensive earlier.
What? Who was I being offensive to?
Well, I don't want to go into it, really, because I don't want to offend people again.
No. You raise it. I'm telling you. I'm going to defend myself. I haven't been offensive to anybody.
You apologised about the Irish navvies thing, didn't you?
Oh, well, that was just a slip of the tongue. I wouldn't worry about that.
Obviously,
don't worry about that. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about the fish fingers situation, right?
Yes.
Because I read a story over the weekend that the fish finger is 60 years old.
I know, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Apparently, it was first made by Birdseye in 1955.
I know.
At its factory in Great Yarmouth.
I know, isn't that brilliant?
In Norfolk.
Yeah, Norfolk.
And the official launch took place on the 26th of September, so presumably this is the month that it is 60 years old.
It is, yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It's brilliant, isn't it? And somewhere in Germany, they're making a 60-foot-long fish finger to celebrate it. They're making
60 foot long?
Yeah, for some unknown reason. It's one of these stupid things that they'll divide up and take to children's homes and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if there's enough people, they'd be able to eat it.
Yeah, I suppose so.
How would you cook a 60-foot-long fish finger?
I've no idea. I know. It's daft, isn't it?
When you read a 60-foot-long oven.
You know, people make like pizzas, which are sort of 8 feet across, don't they, and all that kind of stuff. It's always for the wrong reasons. Yeah. But anyway, let people get on with that if they want to. Who are we to say no?
Yeah, indeed. Now I'm trying to find some.
By the way,
finger facts, right?
I went to Aldi's for the first time. I've told you that an Aldi's has been built at Gospel.
Oh yeah.
It's not very far from me. In fact, it's a few hundred yards.
Did you enjoy the experience?
No, to be honest, I didn't, and I don't want to be unkind here because it's obviously commercially sensitive. But what are you laughing at?
When you say commercially sensitive, you don't want to slag off the entire organisation.
No, I mean what I'm saying is that I do like the ambience of Waitrose. Okay.
Yes.
I think it's got a particularly sort of nice feel to it. You know, there's lots of.
Well, it's a snobbish kind of place.
Yeah, I suppose.
I'm not surprised you would like it in there because it's a bit snobbish.
I suppose it is a bit. And by the way, have you seen how many rows have been cleared in all the supermarkets now to put the Christmas sweets in at this time of the year?
I was in a big supermarket, which I'm not going to name, over the weekend.
Yeah.
I was looking to buy a padlock. you have any idea how hard it is to find a padlock in a supermarket?
Should have gone to an ironmonger, shouldn't
Well,
you?
yeah, I know, but it was a Sunday and the ironmongers weren't open.
Okay.
And I hadn't gone on a Saturday, which we should have done. Because
what do you want a padlock for?
One of the kids needs one for a locker at school.
Oh, I see. Right, okay.
And unfortunately, the organisation of getting this was not very well.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I went to.
Sounds like a very crude method of keeping things safe in a school. To put a big padlock on a desk.
No, on a locker.
On a locker.
Not on a desk.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
Well, how else are you going to lock a locker?
Well, at my school, the King's School Chester, the locker door.
What was the school again?
The King's School Chester. Why do you find that amusing?
Because why do you have to say it? Everybody knows you went to the bloody King's School Chester.
Oh, you see, you're swearing about now. Profanities. You're just jealous of my education.
Not at all.
Jealous of the school I went to.
I went to the Cardinal Vaughan Grammar School for Boys.
Oh, was that invented by Cardinal Vaughan?
Yeah, it was actually.
And who is Cardinal Vaughan?
Well, he was one of the great leaders of the church, the Catholic Church, back in the late 19th century.
He sounds like an historical loser to me. How can you compare Cardinal Vaughan? Cardinal Vaughan.
Well, I think if you look it up, on the school league table, you'll find that it's above the so-called King's School.
Oh no, because King Henry VIII founded my school. There's a statue of him above the main door.
So what?
Well, I would say that King Henry VIII was rather a more outstanding historical figure than your Cardinal.
Well, that depends.
Whoever he was, Vaughan.
That depends.
Yeah, Cardinal Vaughan.
That depends.
Sounds like Cardinal Vaughan is the same name as Napoleon Solo, Robert Vaughan. I mean, at least King Henry VIII had a very distinctive name. There's only ever been one King Henry VIII.
Say Johnny Vaughan's got the same name, but that's not the point, is it?
Johnny Vaughan has, actually. Yeah, that's true, yeah. But there we are.
King Henry VIII's not even the first King Henry.
Oh, no, but he was the most famous.
You think? What, more famous than Henry V?
Oh, I'm Henry VIII. I am my hand.
Well, can you quote from one of his speeches?
Who?
Henry VIII?
Yes.
Which one?
Damned Rome.
Damned Rome?
Yeah.
It's not a speech.
It is.
It's 2 words.
It was. Well,
Henry V came out with the old Agincourt stuff.
Yeah, no, but I'm not talking about Agincourt, are we? Now, what I was going to say was, so I go to Aldi's, right?
Yeah.
And I found it like a different experience. So, why you?
He's just tweeted a great picture of you.
Let me have a look.
Going through a bus shelter in your scooter.
Looks like I've smashed the glass.
Which I've just retweeted.
Yeah. Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Very good from Mardy.
Yeah, so actually I always felt a bit unsafe in that scooter.
I'm not surprised.
Wobbled around a lot, But anyway, I was going to say, oh yeah, so Soldy. So what I'm saying is,
what are you saying?
Well, it's like a warehouse rather than a supermarket, if you see what I mean. But it's meant to be
like that.
Once you
find your way around, it's actually, it's very cheap.
Yeah, very cheap. Yeah. Now the other thing is talking about fish fingers. So I go in there and I thought, this is great. It's a supermarket. It's 200 yards from where I live, and I get all my favourite products.
Yeah.
But when I went to the fish fingers cabinet,
yeah,
and this is serious, I was going to buy
fish fingers cabinet.
Yeah, I was going to buy some.
Otherwise known as the freezer section.
Well, I mean, they're glass cabinets full of stuff. Very American style.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find any bird's eye fish fingers. There weren't any.
Yeah, they don't sell them, do they?
No. There was lots of fish fillets and fish fingers and things, but they were brands I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit suspicious about this sort of thing. I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with the food that Aldi sell.
No.
But I have brand loyalty to things I've eaten all my life. And I couldn't find them in Aldi.
Yeah.
So, in fact,
Well, it's funny how you have that brand loyalty, isn't it? Because
absolutely.
Once you've been used to getting one particular kind... I mean, it's like I would never buy cornflakes made by anybody other than Kellogg's.
I totally agree with you.
I don't know why.
I totally agree with you.
I mean, they might be exactly the same. They might be made in the same factory.
Yeah, I agree.
For some reason, I won't buy them.
No, I agree with that. Like, for instance, if anybody ever tries to give me a tin of beans, which aren't Heinz baked beans, I'm just not interested.
No, me neither.
Seriously, not interested. Yeah. I don't know what the sauce around them tastes like, or I don't know where they've come from or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I suddenly eat Heinz baked beans. So, I'm not knocking it. And I'm sure it's very cheap and all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure it's clearly a successful business because it's gaining customers all the time.
Well, they're slicing away loads and loads of business from the big supermarkets.
At the expense of the big four, so to speak, in this country. But I just have to say it's just not for me. But that doesn't mean to say that there's anything wrong with it, obviously. So I just thought I'd let you know that.
Yeah.
So I still have to walk a bit further to go to one of the other supermarkets, but that's okay.
Well, that's fine. Now, a couple of statistics for you, because you're a big Fish Fingers fan. According to these the details here. Around 99% of the fish used in British fish fingers is imported from Iceland, Norway, Germany and Russia.
It doesn't surprise me.
Well, but doesn't that play against your kind of patriotism, though?
No,
Don't you
not
like to
at all.
eat English fish?
Well, you've got to remember, it's very hard to define what are British seas and what are overseas seas.
No, it's not.
Well, I bet you couldn't tell me the dividing line between
Well, I couldn't tell you, but the
Icelandic waters and British waters.
Well, it's been the subject of many disputes over
exactly,
the years. But it's very clearly marked now.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where it is.
Yeah.
That's why we used to have the cod wars, isn't it?
That's right, exactly.
Now, it says here, the fish finger was partly invented to help fishermen find a market for increasingly large hauls of cod.
That's right.
So it was as a result of all of those wars that was the case.
That's right.
In the first year of production, 600 tons of fish fingers were consumed in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever eaten haddock fish fingers?
Yes, I have, yes.
Do you like those better than cod?
Well, I like them as much. I think they're still very nice. I don't have a problem with them at all.
Yeah. And Captain Birdseye, introduced in 1967, was played by John Hewer.
Yeah.
He starred in more than 50 TV ads in 7 languages.
That's right, he did, yeah. Amazingly slick advertising and promotion campaign to sell something which is basically fish, but it's like Easter eggs, isn't it? It's like a chocolate Easter egg. It's only chocolate.
Yeah, in America they call them fish sticks.
Well, you see, this is one reason why I had a problem with Aldi. Shall I tell you why? Because, well, I never used to shop in New York when I lived there, because nobody did they? We just used to go out and eat all the time.
Not very much, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But in Washington, D.C., I didn't have a huge collection of friends that I could go out with to dinner and all that kind of stuff.
For years, I think, in my apartment in New York, all I had in the fridge was orange juice and Chinese food from the night before.
I'm absolutely sure. You're absolutely... And that's the same with me. Pizza, Chinese food, Indian takeaways... visiting burger restaurants and that sort of stuff. Anything, really, but you're never eating at home. The only time I ate at home was when Peter the Pieman used to bring us pork pies on a Friday afternoon.
True.
Take them home, heat them up and eat them with tomato sauce and crusty bread. It was lovely. But in Washington, D.C., there wasn't nearly as big a collection of English acts.
Right.
I mean, there was 60 in New York when I was there. And in D.C., there were probably... I would say about 15 or 20, but most of them very highbrow. Most of them from the FT and the
Times.
Times.
They want to talk to the likes of you.
Well, I didn't really have anything in common with them. I mixed mostly with the guys at the embassy, the press officers and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they don't want to get bladderated every night.
Well, that's maybe true. So what I'm saying is, I used to eat a lot more at home. So I would go to the supermarkets, in downtown DC or Virginia or Maryland or something.
Yeah.
And so you'd shop around, and then whenever you came to the freezer cabinet, there were two sorts of fish sticks.
Yeah.
There was fish stick composite,
right,
and was fish stick fillet,
right,
and the difference in price was double.
Well, what was composite?
Well, it was
what kind of fish is that?
Sort of bits of fish off they scraped up off the floor and put into fish fingers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wonder whether, and I don't know because I've got no detailed information, whether there is a division about those sort of products in this country as well. Now I don't know. I don't know
either.
But I mean, cheaper food is a good thing, but does it cheapen the quality of the food you're buying? That's what I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure that you're barking.
You see, I would have thought it was too easy.
Take your time, by the way.
Hang on a sec, this is very important. If Tesco wanted to stop the number of people who are stopping shopping in Tesco and going to Aldi and, what's the other one? Lidl. Surely just go and grab a chief executive or something from Aldi and Lidl and bring him over to Tesco. But I think it's much more detailed than that. I think it's the actual products they're selling in their shop.
Yeah.
Tesco have to say to themselves, do our millions of customers want those products? I think that's what it's all about.
Well, that's the problem.
I kind of work this out because I'm a bit of a retail, sort of aficionado, really.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I haven't spent so many years going in and out of supermarkets. And because, of course, unlike you,
have you not seen the time?
Unlike you, I've had to do most of the shopping in my life myself. I haven't had used a woman as a slave. Used a woman as a slave to go around doing the shopping for me.
You've never used a woman as a slave?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. This is Talk Sport.
Oh, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, you know it sounds precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Winners and losers coming up very shortly, and a podcast coming out probably in about 6 hours or so. I don't need to ask you what that music's from, do I?
That's Mary Poppins.
Yeah, it is.
First saw that when I was about 6, I suppose. What year did it come out?
Let's see. I think it was.
Let me have a look on your information device.
I'm trying to find out. I mean, you've got to be talking about early 60s, haven't you?
Yeah, early 60s.
I remember going to see it. It was apparently it was such a huge hit. It grossed $100 million at the box office
in those days.
Which in those days is an awful lot of money.
That's $1 billion today.
It included 5 Oscars, including one for Julie Andrews.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
but they're rebooting it, right? Because of all these movies that they're now remaking.
I don't know why they do.
I can't imagine why they would want to.
Why would you, how could you possibly replace the magic of Julie Andrews with her umbrella slowly floating over the chimney pots of London, landing in the front garden of the house where she became, what was she, a governess?
She was a nanny, yeah.
A nanny, that's right, yeah. I mean,
I think the problem is, it's a bit like when they made Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and at the end of it, they were killed. And everyone in Hollywood suddenly went, how do we let that happen?
Yeah.
You know, we've actually made one of the most successful movies of all time.
That's right.
And we can't make another one because they're dead.
No.
And then they decided to make the prequel, which was Butch Cassidy and Sundance the early days.
Oh,
right?
was it?
Which was rubbish.
Yeah, I bet it was.
And the same thing goes for this, I think, where they go, well, how come we haven't done this? Because it's all been inspired, apparently, by the idea that they've made a fortune from turning, Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella into live-action sort of hits, and they've now made more money on that. Yeah, well, they've reshot those.
I didn't know that.
They're now talking about...
I've never seen Alice in Wonderland billed as a new film.
Yeah, they did it with Johnny Depp and all that. It was really It was actually quite good.
Good God, I don't remember that.
But it wasn't a cartoon. Now, I mean, this obviously
must be going.
won't be. Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, apparently, what they're going to do is they're going to say that this new movie will take place 20 years after the original one.
I see.
In sort of film time.
Yes.
And it will be
that'll be about 1910 then.
Yeah, and it will be the further adventures of the children and the nanny's continued adventures with the children as they get old, as they get older, presumably.
Well, they'll be 20 years older. They won't be children anymore.
That can't work, can it?
Who's going to play Mary Poppins?
It doesn't say. All it says is that it's going to be produced or directed rather by some guy called Rob Marshall.
Okay, and I suppose your boys will go and see that, will they?
Well, I'm not sure if they will.
No, I'm not sure if they will either.
I mean, one of the films that they loved when they were growing up was Nanny McPhee.
Nanny McPhee, I didn't like that.
Which is Emma Thompson.
Yeah,
and
Emma
they loved
Thompson.
the first one and they loved the second one.
Yeah. She's caused a big row, Emma Thompson, over the weekend.
Has she?
She went on to Newsnight last week. Emily Maitlis was interviewing her. And Emma Thompson suddenly produced this statistic that, if we don't do something about global warming, do you realise that by 2030 the globe will be 4 degrees warmer than it is now?
You've already saed that on Talk Sport.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was one of your predictions.
What do you mean?
When we were doing the Selco Predictors coming back, you used to do the prediction every Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah. Do you not remember that either?
No.
Do you remember anything?
No. But I never said the world was going to heat up.
You said the world will end up having a second ice age in 2030.
Yeah, ice age. It'll get colder. Certainly. Yeah. But I didn't say it'd get warmer. Anyway, she said this, and then...
I thought she said it was going to get colder.
No, warmer.
Sure?
4 degrees warmer.
Okay.
Seriously.
All right.
And the big row was that Emily Maitlis, who is a Cambridge-educated, graduate and journalist and all that, just said, oh, really? Instead of saying, hang on, what evidence you got for this? Right. Because what happened the next day was there was a storm of protests from people saying, hang on, where did this come from? Who said this? And where's the evidence and all that? And it was never challenged.
Oh, right. Well, not as bad as Vivienne Westwood. You see what she got up to at the weekend?
No.
She drove a tank to David Cameron's house in Whitney,
Really?
To protest against fracking.
Oh, I didn't see that, no.
This is a woman who went to Buckingham Palace with no knickers on.
No, that's right, no.
Do you remember her?
Oh, God, don't even think about it. Listen, talking about your boys and all this, what about taking the dog to the pub?
Yeah, I took the dog to the pub for the first time. Isn't that great?
And were you with your boys?
Yeah, they came as well.
OK, and they're allowed in there all right, are they?
Well, funnily enough, it was one of those Saturdays where it was quite a nice afternoon.
Yes.
And I just thought, it's not a new pub that's opened locally, but it's an old pub.
Yeah.
In fact, it's the oldest pub in the village.
Yeah.
And it's been there since about the 11th century.
Right. Yeah.
Visited, apparently.
What's it called?
I don't want to tell you what it's called.
Why?
Why? Because people start going there.
So what? That's good. That's you're being complimentary to the place. Why shouldn't you get a shout out?
I don't need to give it a shout out.
All right, okay.
Why don't you tell us about the names of all the pubs you go to?
Well, I wouldn't mind, but I mean, I might be coming down to see you quite soon.
We've only got another half an hour to go on the show,
Just get on with the story.
Anyway, the point is, we decided it would be nice, but I didn't know if it was a dog-friendly pub. Yes. And it's only about a 10-minute walk away through the fields. You know, just take the dog for a walk anyway.
Yes.
And didn't also know if kids were allowed to go. Some pubs after sort of 6 o'clock at night.
Yes, that's
right. They don't allow children in, right? So I took the dog up, and the dog's never been in a pub before. So opened the door to the pub,
And collapsed with the smell of ale.
No, suddenly this other dog came running towards the door, barking incessantly.
Yes, from the inside.
From the inside.
I see.
So first of all, we thought, well, all right. So I went inside. It was a very small pub. It was very old.
Yes,
and there wasn't really anywhere because my dog's now quite big.
Yes,
and there wasn't really anywhere to put.
Had to go under the table.
Well, there wasn't really a table for him to go under. All the tables were kind of occupied, and the bar area was pretty well occupied.
I see.
So I said, well, do you know what? Maybe this is not a good time. And everyone was really friendly, and they said, no, don't worry. He's a lovely dog. He looks great. Just come in. And I said, no, honestly, you'll start knocking tables over, you'll start knocking drinks over. And in the end, somebody said, oh, don't worry, there's a beer garden. So we managed to, steer him around a couple of tables without knocking anything over. We went out to the beer garden, and he sat in the beer garden quite happily, which was more of a courtyard, really.
Okay.
A couple of picnic tables.
He was quite happy.
And he was quite happy. I had one pint of beer. It was all I had all Saturday.
Really?
I know that you frequently claim that I'm going to have, bottle of red, bottle of white. I had one pint of beer. For Saturday, that was it. That's all I had.
Do you know, that reminds me of a story years ago, honestly. It's a tragic story when I was on the Chester Chronicle, right? And there was a guy there.
Do you want to hang on to it? I don't know if we've got time for this.
Well, because we're doing Winners and Losers next,
can you tell me in a minute, then?
All right. Okay, I'll tell you quickly. And there was a guy there who called Jim Burden.
I don't have to give his name away.
Well, his brother Peter Burden was a crime correspondent on the Daily Mail.
He wasn't related to the guy from the Animals.
No, he wasn't. No, not Eric Burden. No. But anyway,
Beaster Burden.
No, it wasn't Beaster Burden or anything like that. In fact, my dad called him the White Man's Burden because that was the name of a film with Humphrey Bogart in it at the time about exploration in Africa or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but anyway. Anyway, this guy, he had to come back to Chester because his wife was a Chester girl. Right. She was a Welsh girl from just over the border. But she wanted to come back because she missed her parents so much, So he came back. He worked on the Scotsman in London. Yeah. He comes back. He was paid nothing, a report on the Chester Chronicle, £22 a week, something like that. Right. And one Sunday, he told me he reached the lowest ebb of his life in terms of poverty. Right. He took his two boys out. They went to a pub, and he had enough money. He'd worked it out for 1 pint of beer for himself and 2 Cokes for his boys. Right. So he goes in the pub that's got a revolving door, and he gets these, and the girl says, "Do you want a tray?" And he said, "Oh yes, okay, thank you."
I know what you're going to say.
I know. So he comes out through the revolving door. At the last, he slips, and the pint of beer, because the toilet, came off the tray and smashed on the floor. Right. But he saved the 2 Cokes. So he goes and sits down at the trestle table outside on this lovely summer's morning, gives his 2 boys the Cokes. His beer is all over the floor. The staff come out, clean it all up and all that, and say, "Oh dear, sorry, you're right. Okay, should we get you another one?" He didn't have any money, so he said, No, it's okay. I didn't really want a beer anyway. I'd just let the lads have their Coke, thank you." He couldn't afford to buy. Isn't that tragic?
Terrible story.
My heart went out to him, and I took him out and bought him 2 or 3 pints on the Monday when he came back to work. I felt so sorry for him, and that made me broke because none of us had any money in those days.
Never go to a pub with a revolving door.
Absolutely,
I think it's a lesson there.
Absolutely.
This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 Mikes. Coming next, it's Winners and Losers.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
Maybe the losers get lucky sometimes. Even the losers keep running pride. They get lucky sometimes.
It is that time of the week when we pit our wits against each other, such as they are. Last week it was Porky's chance to be the favourite and my chance to be the retweet. So this week it goes back to the other way around. So I will be favourite. Porky will be retweeted if you like his better than mine. And as ever, we'll keep the voting open until midnight. So you can vote whether you listen to the podcast or whether you're listening to us live right now. We will tweet it out very, very shortly. Shall we, as ever, start with your losers of the weekend, Mr. Parry?
OK, losers of the weekend?
Yeah,
certainly. OK, the losers of the weekend. The first one, and this has to be against my better nature, but I'm afraid it's Tim Sherwood, because Tim Sherwood made a drastic error, in my view, as manager of Aston Villa after young Grealish scored the opening goal for Villa at Leicester. They went 1-0 up. There was 60 minutes to go. That was on the half-hour mark, OK? Right. And yet Grealish ran over to his manager, jumped in the air. His manager caught him and hugged him like he was Maradona and like he was the He just won the Champions League final.
Right.
It was a ridiculous...
And there was still plenty of time to go, wasn't there?
It was a ridiculous overreaction to me. It said to me that, Grealish now thinks that he is Maradona, that he's got the full seal of approval from his manager. Villa then went 2 up. And the second goal was a smashing goal as well, and there was no history.
Wasn't it Grealish's first goal, though? Wasn't that why
it was Grealish's first ever goal for the club?
Well, so he was excited for it.
And it was 3 days after his 20th birthday. Yes, I know, but the manager, who is a mature former professional footballer and has managed Tottenham Hotspur, should have known that he gave a completely the wrong message to his team. What he should have done is he should have said, calm down, don't get carried away, we haven't won the game yet, there's an hour to go.
Well,
okay,
I mean, maybe
it's nice to get the first goal.
That is the Achilles heel, maybe, of Tim Sherwood.
Well, let me tell you,
Your former mate, by the way.
Yeah, and still my mate, I hope, but I'm just making an observation.
But
what I'm saying is that they were 1-0 up, they went 2-0 up, and then Tim couldn't get his strategy together to hang on to a 2-goal advantage at Leicester, and he lost the game 3-2.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, that makes him the loser of the weekend to me.
All right. Well, have you got 2 others as well? You have 3, You
yes, I know that. I know that.
So you, by your own admission, this next 2 are rubbish then?
No. These next 2 are better, or as good, if not better.
They're better than that
The second loser of the week is Carson the Butler from Downton Abbey.
What?
Carson the Butler, otherwise
Downton
known...
Abbey hasn't even started yet.
Otherwise known as Jim... Jim Carter.
Jim Carter.
Age 67.
I thought that was the name of a sort of educational establishment.
No, Carson the Butler.
Jim Carner,
do you know what he's done? He's blurted out the end of the Downton Abbey Christmas special.
Really?
Yeah, instead of Downton Abbey blowing up, instead of 3 people being killed in a in a car accident, instead of 2 people dying by falling in the River Thames, instead of an oak tree tumbling down and killing somebody, guess how it all ends?
Well, don't tell me.
No, I'm going to.
Don't tell me.
I'm going to.
Well, then
because
you'll have to be the loser of the weekend.
No, because Carson the Butler revealed that they all stand around singing Auld Lang Syne.
Well, it's not much of an ending, is it?
That's what I mean, and then that's it.
Well, maybe it's a trick.
Well, I'm telling you...
Where did he reveal this?
He revealed this in an interview in a Sunday newspaper at the weekend.
Well, I don't think that's going to be how it ends.
I'm telling you it is.
Take it in.
I think that's loser. And the third loser, of course...
Oh, is there another one?
Yeah,
you said 3 already.
You said 3. I said 3.
You had 3 already.
No,
sure?
No, we've had Tim Sherwood, Carson the Butler.
Yeah, okay.
The third one, I'm sorry, but it's got to be another football manager, Steve McClaren. I mean, it's just getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
How Steve McClaren, a wake-up call. Well, get a new alarm clock, Steve, because that wake-up call should have been waking you up on day 1 of the season. It's now 5 games into the season. You're rock bottom of the Premier League, 2 points, and you keep, uttering these profanities about wake-up calls, cold shower. You've got to get busy, son, otherwise you're going to have real problems.
Yeah, I think they've already got real problems. Right. Okay, well, my 3 losers of the... I can't believe that you've missed the biggest losers of the weekend, who are, of course, Chelsea. Chelsea slaughtered by Everton, completely outplayed, completely outmanoeuvred.
Too obvious.
No, not too obvious
Too
at
obvious,
all.
and also I would have been accused of being too pro-Everton had I chosen their opponents as a loser.
So that's the real reason.
No, it's not.
If Chelsea lose against Arsenal at the weekend, which is entirely possible, some people think Mourinho will get fired. If all the other teams below them win, they will then be bottom of the league, which would be absolutely extraordinary. So I think Chelsea, you have to say, Jose Mourinho having the worst start of his entire footballing career must last me.
But on his past track record, you could never call him a loser.
Yeah, I'm not calling him a loser. I'm calling Chelsea.
You can't
losers.
call them losers either.
That's the difference. So they lost 3-1. My second loser is the Labour Party. Because the Labour Party have seen fit to put this guy Jeremy Corbyn in charge of it, and I predict that the Labour Party will self-destruct at some point or other in the next 2 years.
Yes.
You will end up having a sort of a split in the Labour Party, and there's many people who think that it's going to be great for people who are from the left and want a voice. It's actually going to be much, much worse.
Yes.
So Corbyn is a loser. And my third loser, actually, is thanks to Tony Pulis, and it's Callum McManaman. Callum McManaman, of course, plays for West Bromwich Albion, went for a penalty in their game, their draw against Southampton.
Yeah.
And after the game, Tony Pulis even said that he was glad the referee had not given the penalty because he said Callum McManaman dived before the player even touched him. And in fact, as the replay showed, he wasn't even touched. And Pulis said, I'll be having a word with him about that. It was a good decision by the referee. So I think Callum McManaman should hang his head in shame. I know you're not a fan of diving, and I know you mentioned on Twitter that Ashley Young was at it as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Which I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think Callum McManaman has got to be in there. So those are my 3, and I think all 3 are better than yours.
Yeah, but we have too many divers. That's too common a fault. I'm sorry, that's not a good one either.
Now,
right.
Luckily, you're not the judge of this.
Yes.
Let's do the winners.
Yep.
First, if you don't mind.
Yes, go on.
With my winners.
Yes.
My first winner of the weekend is Claudio Ranieri, a man who has been said to be a bad choice for Leicester for many, many weeks. I've been saying all along that this guy was going to be great for Leicester.
Yeah.
They're now second in the league. They came back from 2-0 down against your mate Tim Sherwood, or Steve, as we know him. And I think Claudio Ranieri deserves to be in there because they've had a fantastic week and a fantastic weekend. My second winner is substitutes.
Yes.
Because if you were paying close attention, obviously Stephen Naismith scored his hat-trick against Chelsea.
Yes.
He was a substitute. Anthony Martial came on as a substitute for Manchester United, scored a fantastic goal, proving that he may well end up being worth 36 million quid.
Yes.
And even Manchester City substitute, a young man from Nigeria called Kelechi Iheanacho.
Yeah, he did well.
Quite a difficult name to pronounce. Also came on and scored their winning goal as a substitute in the final couple of minutes of the game. So I think that's a brilliant, very, very cleverly put together winner.
No,
substitutes.
It's not. It's not. It's a collection
you're
of people.
Feeling bad that you haven't done that.
No.
And then my final
no.
winner,
Yeah.
and I would have done this anyway had we not had this message from Jake up in Aberdeen,
Yeah.
is Aberdeen. Because Aberdeen
yeah.
have got 6 wins out of 6. They're top of the league. They've made history. Best start to a season ever. Beat Celtic with 10 men at the weekend, 2-1. And with their man Derek McInnes in charge, they may well win the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah, not bad.
I think those are all brilliant.
Mine are better.
Let's have a look then.
You go on about substitutes, so you made it too broad and too spread out. It is, of course, obviously, Naismith. Stephen Naismith.
Well, you would say that,
Well,
wouldn't you?
hang on. This is the
Being
first...
Everton fanatic.
The first hat-trick scored against Chelsea in over 5 years, right? The first hat-trick an Everton player has scored for 2. And,
for 2 years?
Yeah. And
That's not very long.
Well, anyway, but it was a fantastic achievement considering he didn't even start the game. That's the most amazing thing.
That is the most amazing thing.
So he's winner number 1. Winner number 2, Roberta Vinci.
Who?
Roberta Vinci.
Roberta Vinci.
Roberta Vinci.
Roberta, it's a woman.
The lady who lost the US Open final is in fact the winner because she was so delightful after she beat Serena Williams.
Yeah.
She beat Serena Williams, right?
Yeah.
To get to the final of the US Open.
Yeah.
A delightful young lady from Italy who lifted all our hearts with her beautiful, bubbly personality and her sheer joy at turning over the best female tennis player ever.
Yeah.
She is the second winner.
She won the US Open.
No, she didn't win the US
Well,
Open.
how could she be a winner?
Because she won the semi-final against
Well,
Serena
so
Williams
what?
and got into the Open
Getting
final.
into the Open isn't necessarily being a winner.
I'm sorry it is. And the third one, because we're short of time, is Billy Heath, OK? Now, Billy Heath...
Billy Heath?
Yes, on this day in 1891 at Molineux, right?
Yeah.
Billy Heath was awarded the first penalty kick in English football ever. He stepped up and knocked it home, and he contributed to Wolves winning 5-0 against Accrington Stanley.
Hey?
That makes him
What?
a winner of winners,
How
OK?
long ago was this?
1891.
So why is he a winner now?
Because it was on this day in 1891 that he scored that first penalty
Which
ever in
day?
English football. Sorry?
It was on which day?
On this day in 1891, you idiot.
What, Tuesday?
September the 15th.
Tuesday?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, OK.
That's very obscure.
No, it's not. It's a brilliant decision, that. It's a brilliant, brilliant decision.
What's his name again? Billy Heath?
Billy Heath, yeah. You wish
He scored a penalty.
scored a penalty.
100 years ago.
Well, more than 100 years ago, and it was the very first penalty ever scored in English football. That, to me, is so record-making. He has to be the winner of winners.
Are you sure you got that date right?
I've got it absolutely right. Yeah, I've got it right, mate. I know my history. Don't you worry about that.
I'll let people know before they start voting. Because
Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
incorrect, of course.
No,
you know,
it's not.
it might turn out that would be
It's
null
not,
and
it's
void.
not incorrect at all.
Well, it might be.
Don't be ridiculous. Right, so I would, vouchsafe to everybody.
Commend them to the House.
I
is what you
commend this to the
always
House. My message to you all, vote Porky and vote often.
Yeah, that's the same message you get every week. You can vote until midnight. I've just tweeted out on the Two Mikes account, retweet for Mike Parry, favourite for myself, and the winners and losers will be counted up shortly after midnight tonight, and then we'll give you the results on the show tomorrow.
Vote Porky, vote often.
Unbelievable. You're worse than some kind of dictator.
Vote Porky, vote often.
This is Talk Sport.
You're simply the best. Better than all the rest. Better than anyone. Anyone I've ever met.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out later on, of course, around about 6 hours, 5.5 hours or so from now. There will be Ask Porky tonight as well on the show. Lots and lots of tweets on the old winners and losers. People seem to be pointing out that most believe that Billy Heath scored the first ever penalty in the English League on the 14th of September. Not the 15th.
No, it was the 15th.
Roy says, let the Porky gerrymandering commence.
Yeah.
Here's one from Ankal, who says, I didn't get time to listen live, but will retweet this for now.
Yes.
Hashtag believe in Porky.
Yes, thank you.
That shouldn't be allowed.
Thank you. Of course it should be allowed. They know the quality of my my decision-making.
Phil says, so after ruining Poldark for me, that fat fool saved me the bother of watching my box set of Downtown. Hashtag...
of Downton, you mean?
I think he means Downton,
Yeah. But, well,
maybe unless he's watching something else.
Well, it hasn't come out yet because it's not going to be broadcast till Christmas. I just thought I'd give you a heads up.
Here's one from William, who says, winners and losers, no contest, folks. Porky's winners and losers vastly superior to old MG.
Thank you.
Porky a winner by a landslide. Anthony says, outrageous winners and losers from Parry. Favourite for Graham tonight. Awful winners, Porky. Ha-ha, says Craig. Porky's winners shocking. MG's got this in the bag, says
Rubbish.
Sean. And, Bill says, is Porky having a giraffe with that 19th century penalty taker?
What?
Bloody ludicrous, he says.
No, Jozza says, I fell asleep during Porky's winners. Oh, really, Jozza? Well, in that case, I should take more water with it next time, pal.
Yeah, indeed.
You can't stay awake when you're listening to, what is a presence, a talent,
It's 29-7 to me at the moment.
What?
29-7.
Utter rubbish.
It is.
Anyway, I'm not going to read out some more of these because I don't want to self-praise.
They're all against you, aren't they?
Now, listen, I want to tell you about that song, Maybe the Best.
Simply the Best.
Simply the Best.
Tina
I came
Turner.
across this fantastic survey, right?
Yeah.
You won't believe this, Mike,
Right.
but you and I will have seen these people in their hundreds over the years in the various places we've worked. 1 in 4 people who start a career path, right, never get promoted.
Whatever.
Like never.
Not just stay in the same job.
A quarter of workers in Britain never get promoted, will never be promoted, while 1 in 10 has waited more than a decade for even one step up the ladder. How about that?
That must be soul-destroying,
It must be soul-destroying. Must be absolutely
obviously
soul-destroying.
you had a pretty meteoric rise up the old journalistic greasy
absolutely.
pole. I mean, you started... Your first job was what? At the Chester Chronicle?
A report at the Chester Chronicle.
Was that your first one, or was it not?
No, that was the first one.
Was it?
Yeah, that was the first one.
So straight out of journalism school? Or no, in fact... did you go to journalism
Yeah,
school?
I did, yeah. I went to the Thompson Regional Newspaper Training Centre in Newcastle.
Right, but you didn't go there as part of the Chester Chronicle staff?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you were sponsored by your local paper because they're all part of the Thompson Group.
So that's what I mean. So when you dropped out of Nottingham Trent University,
That's right.
whatever it's now called, University of the Trent, as you call it.
That's right, yeah.
Trent Poly. You went straight to the Chester Chronicle and got a job
Well,
there.
actually, there was a 6-month gap in which I became the driver of the Corona pop wagon.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right, and then waiting for the
we
course.
We all know how that went.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine if you'd stayed in the Corona pop wagon business, you probably wouldn't have lasted too long.
No, I could have been running it by now.
After that incident on Horseshoe Pass or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was a bit of a problem, dumping 12 cases of lemonade onto the road at Horseshoe Pass,
Yeah, exactly.
But we've all seen, haven't we, these people at work, and you sort of know that guy's never going anywhere in life.
Yeah.
Do you know the biggest lack of promotion things that often intrigues me?
Right.
And by the way, I'm not being detrimental to the police here, but I have huge respect for the police
Of course
service.
you do, yeah.
If I'm driving home late at night and they've got a blue flashing light behind me or something
you don't
like
want
that.
them following you.
Don't want to follow me. Yeah. But the number of policemen who start and finish their careers as constables.
But isn't that because they prefer the job?
That is absolutely because they prefer the job. Sometimes it's because they're in specialities like dog handling or they're a motorcycle policeman, and the danger.
That's probably a promotion because they don't start in that.
Well, what I'm saying is the danger of promotion, apparently, in the police is that you will go to another section or another department within the police force,
mind you,
and you prefer to remain where you are.
I mean, we've all also seen people getting promoted above, what they were capable of doing.
Way above.
Because they've waited long enough and they've finally become the sort of the last guy on the log or something like that.
That's right,
and suddenly they get a great job.
Yeah.
And they can't really do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some people promoted do you remember at the Express, we had a lad called Terry, something or other, who became the night news editor.
Oh, yeah.
And he was so incompetent that he could hardly speak.
He's dead now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, is he dead?
Yeah, he is.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he's dead.
How do you know that?
Pretty sure he's dead, yeah.
Oh, poor old Terry. He was a good lad.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was so incompetent that he could hardly speak. He speak like this, And I remember one morning...
Well, he just had a particularly pronounced South London accent.
Well, I remember one morning about 3 o'clock in the morning, because he was the overnight news editor.
Well, we used to make fun of the way he said news desk. He always answered news desk.
Yeah, but anyway...
But he also never made a decision.
No, he never made a decision, no. And one morning the phone rang at 3 a.m. I was in bed, not bladerated or anything like that.
No way.
I don't
believe the story.
I'd have been getting up a few hours later to go and take the mantle as the news editor of the Express, on the day shift and all that. And the phone rang, and because we didn't have mobile phones in those days, I said, "Who's Terry?" Yeah, all right, Terry, calm down. What is it? The bridges have all come down. Terry, what are you talking about?
What bridges?
Well, it was the earthquake in San Francisco.
Oh, right, okay.
When all the roads collapsed.
Yeah,
and he said the bridges were coming down.
yeah.
I said, what, the Golden Gate Bridge, maybe? What's coming down next? And this guy was incapable of, even controlling himself in a big story breaking and all this kind of stuff.
Because he wanted you to make the decision for him
Absolutely.
as to what to then do about it, right?
well, he was basically asking, should I dash downstairs to the print room, tell them to stop the press, literally, and then replate everything? And I said, well, how serious is this? I mean, how we don't...
Because by 3 o'clock in the morning, it was explained, most of the production staff had gone home.
Most of the production had gone home. There wasn't really a late facility of print paper that late. But had the Queen been shot or something, you'd have to ask people to come back into the building or something like that.
Yeah.
So and I couldn't get this. You've got to remember, you couldn't get up in those days and suddenly open up your laptop or switch on Sky News to find out what was going on.
I mean,
so I had to rely on him to tell me.
Well, I remember getting a call because the day of 9/11, I was in I was in Wiltshire. I wasn't even at work because I'd taken a week off to try and sort out my marriage.
Yeah.
And one of the guys from the office called me and said, "Put the TV on." And I didn't have anything other than the 5 channels. I didn't have anything like cable or anything like that. I put on the TV and something like Emmerdale was on. I'm like, well, what do you mean put on the TV? There's nothing on. And even just 14 years ago, there was no kind of facility for 24-hour news.
Absolutely. But you saw these people who worked, didn't you? And you knew they... And sometimes one of the frustrations of your professional life is seeing somebody who is promoted, who is useless, who is utterly and absolutely useless, and you think... Why?
How did that happen? But the other thing about it is that you would have suffered from this, even though you say you've never really been fired. I mean, I have been, because, I would get promoted into a job, and the higher up you go, the more chance there is of you getting fired.
Exactly.
And yet you would, as you were traipsing out of the building, you were the same people that when you came in were there, were still there, and the same people would be there after the next guy had been fired, and they never moved anywhere.
Oh, believe me, I know exactly what you're talking about. When I was the news editor, I had a bunch of deadbeats surrounding me who were all called, quote, assistant news editors, and had been, quote, assistant news editors for the last 3 news editors.
And had never been promoted.
Never made a decision, never put themselves out to do anything special, never came in with an idea, couldn't execute anything that was difficult, and they would smugly all gather in the pub later to say, oh, well, that's another one we've seen off.
Yeah, right.
And by being incompetent, idle, lazy, and basically useless bunch of trash...
Was this the kind of pep talk that you would give them once a year?
Well, yeah, exactly.
You take them out for Christmas lunch and say, by the way, you're all lazy, useless bunch of trash.
I would tell them that, and I was shaking things up in January because I didn't want them to have a comfortable Christmas.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to
That's
think...
not very nice.
No, I didn't think they'd wake up on Christmas Day saying, isn't the world a wonderful place? I've got a nice steady job at the Express, and I just do nothing. I go in at 9 o'clock, I read through a few screens,
Look busy.
Look busy, shout a few things over the desk.
Walk
have you seen this?
To the reporters and look as if I'm talking to them for a while.
Spend 3 hours in the pub at lunchtime, come back and then go home at 6 o'clock. And I thought, you're stealing a living, you're nicking a living, and you're too comfortable. So every sort of Christmas Eve, I used to gather them all together and say, the performance is not good enough. I'll be making wholesale reviews in January and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
That's quite cruel.
Yeah, it is really.
Just so they would have a miserable Christmas.
Yeah, I wanted them to have a miserable Christmas because they'd made my life miserable throughout the year by just sitting there and watching me squirm in difficult situations.
Surely you were then to blame for not appointing better assistants.
Well, you couldn't get rid of them because when you went to the management and said, look, this lot have got to go, they'd say we haven't got the redundancy money to get rid of them.
Yeah.
They're all on long-term contracts. If you worked there for 22 years, you have to take 22 months' money with you and all that.
And they had incredible pensions as well.
Oh, incredible pensions, golden-plated pensions and all that. So that was the problem. There was one chap at the Express, poor chap at the Express, he did get promoted, but it was for the shocking reason. He was a facilitator, so, he'd move copy from one department to the other and get pictures moved around.
Stories and all that,
Yeah, and, and carry pictures around from the library because, again, there was nothing electronic in those days. And unfortunately, he went to the lift one day to go from one floor to another and he pressed the button, the doors opened and he stepped into what he thought was the lift, but the lift wasn't there. So he went hurtling down the lift shaft and, unfortunately, he got quite badly injured.
He was lucky in a sense, though, or rather the company was lucky because they then sort of agreed to employ him for
life.
Pretty much the rest of his life.
And give him a better title and all that kind of stuff.
But what didn't happen was that he didn't sue them for millions and millions of pounds, which he would have done now.
That's right, sure. No, it's absolutely right, poor chap. And but he was very useful, a very nice chap. But it's a hell of a way to gain a promotion.
I suppose the way things are, I mean, you say a quarter of people who are in work don't ever get promoted. I mean, if that wasn't the case and everybody got promoted, then I'm not sure whether that would be better. Because in the end, there are some people who don't particularly want to be promoted. When I worked in Scotland, I used to say to people, wouldn't you like to go down and work in London? Oh, no. and they didn't want to go. They weren't interested. They were very happy getting paid reasonably well in a job in
Scotland,
agree. Where there wasn't that much pressure,
I totally agree.
Where there wasn't really too much competition,
yeah.
And they sat where they sat, and they never moved.
Well,
and they had no ambition to go to London.
I'm sure I've told you this story before. On the Chester Chronicle, right, I stayed there 2.5 years before I moved to my first evening paper, which was the Evening Chronicle in Newcastle. It was in the same group.
Yeah.
And then I moved from there to the bigger paper, the Birmingham Mail. But in Chester, there was a lad called Paul, and we started on the same day.
Paul,
I can't remember his surname.
Don't give his name away.
I can't even remember what it is.
Well, you might want to give his name away.
But he was Paul, and he was a normal sort of looking kid, a normal sort of size as me when we started. We were both 19.
Normal size.
Yeah, but he became Billy Bunter within about 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, and he was a good tennis player that used to keep him fit, but he gave up tennis.
Right.
And he became like Billy Bunter. And let me tell you this, right? I went back 20 years later, by which time I'd been the New York correspondent of the Express, the news editor of the Daily Express, the assistant editor of the executive editor of the Sun and all this, I moved into radio. And I went back, and do you know what? I saw some old colleagues who were still there from Chester Chronicle. Guys
to see you.
Who now retired. Very pleased to see me. Very pleased to see me. This guy Paul walked in, and I said, what's he doing these days? I said he was a junior reporter with me. They said he's the editor now. I said he's the editor of the Chester Chronicle. Yeah. I said really? He said yeah. He said honestly, Mike. He said he just sat there in the newsroom until everybody else either died, left, retired, or got sacked. And in the end, he was the only one left. Yeah. And they made him editor.
Yeah. Well, that's a tragedy, isn't it?
Fantastic career plan.
I know.
Fantastic career plan. If you want to wait 20 years for it.
If you're willing to wait that long, yeah. You weren't willing to wait that long.
No, I wasn't willing to. No. I was a mover and shaker, mate. A goer, a mover, a shaker. I decided to take the world on. I had to move fast because I had places to go.
Yeah, how's that going?
Yeah, it's going well, yeah, thanks. Yeah. Just trying to find a new road to go down.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll find one soon.
Exactly.
This has been the Two Mics. Of course, there will be a podcast coming out in around about 5 hours from now. I can tell you that at the moment, if you vote for us for winners and losers, you retweet for Mike Parry, favourite for myself. At the moment, it's 17 retweets to 42 favourites. So it's not looking good for you. 17 retweets, 42 favourites.
You gerrymandered that, you see.
No, I haven't.
I think I'm going to hold that competition next week because your voice being the voice of the competition means that people automatically gravitate towards you.
How did you win it last week?
Well, because I was so outstandingly good last week and I was outstandingly good this week, but people feel sorry for you because you were humiliated and battered last week. And they thought they'd give you a bit of sympathy this week. That's what's going on.
Well, it's very early days. I don't know if you should be quite so despondent, quite so early in the competition.
It's going
to be Ask Porky coming up tomorrow, so you can tweet us your questions and your quandaries over the next sort of, 15 hours or so. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics.
Look at the light! Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne, podcast from the Two Mics. In Birmingham, that means per 100 people, 58 people a day eat a tin of canned food.
So 58% of the population of Birmingham basically eat a tin of canned food every day?
No, 58 per 100.
Well, that's 58%.
That's 58%, that's right.
That's what I just
58% of people in Birmingham, eat a tin of food. Well, I don't know, what are you laughing at? Well, you can't just, say, oh, here we got a load of peas and shovel them, like two Irish navvies shoveling peas onto the back of a lorry. Sorry, I've got anything against Irish navvies, by the way. They could be English navvies, could be Scottish navvies.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
Power to the people!